Welcome to the Reapers Nation. First episode of Reapers Nation. I'm your host, Rosalind Perkins. How's everyone doing? Um, I know this is something new that we haven't done, but we will have topics. I will explain it. For people who are new to my show, I usually do the Bronze Reaper podcast, but today we are starting a new channel called the Reapers Nation. We will be digging deep into politicians, systems, freedom fighters, just topics that we can also talk about. And like I would say, if you want to jump on the panel, you can jump on the panel. But hold on a second. Give me a second, everybody. Okay, straight. Um, so if you want to jump on the panel, definitely jump in the live chat. What's going on, Rando? Jump into the live chat and also say that you want to say your piece. What made me actually do this show is that I feel like we should talk about on certain channels that I do have, such as the Bronze Reaper podcast and the Chocolate Man podcast. We should talk about certain subjects, certain subjects that we can always talk about. One of the subjects is politics. And when I say we talk about politics, I'm talking about we dig deep into people's backgrounds, such as Saturday we will be talking about Michelle Wu, the Boston mayor, and today we'll be talking about Jeffrey Epstein's in the Satanic Circle. What I mean by the Satanic Circle is, I'm talking about the elites. Um, I know people get it messed up when I say the Satanic Circle. Um, to personally jump out the window, I will say this: most of these elites are, what's the word? Most of the elites are more. Um, it's a bloodline. It's a bloodline that has been lasting for years, probably no, for generations. So you might hear a person's name, but when you go back in time, when you go back, you could see that like this person had more than old people money. You know, and with Jeffrey Epstein, his biggest power was exploitation and extortion. The reason why I throw out extortion, most of these people who hung out with Epstein, Epstein had stuff on. That's why a lot of this stuff is out now where we're just finding out. Me personally, I'm not surprised. I'm gonna be personally, I'm not really surprised of what Jeffrey Epstein has done. Um, but I will say this: where he's from should have been investigated probably 15, 20 years ago. And that's on a nice day. Where Jeffrey Epstein is in New York should have been investigated 15, 20 years ago. Like I said, that's a nice day. If you really, really go back, it should have been investigated longer than that. Give me a second, and I'll tell you more about. Um, it says that he's from New York, but I personally think where he's from the Upper East Side. And that's why, like, where you have a lot of people who are really who does talk about stuff like this, they they're pushing back from it because, like I said, one thing I could tell you, Jeffrey Epstein's is master of extortion. He's the master of extortion. But I'll also tell you this: he's a small fish. There are people bigger than Epstein that are doing three times worse. You know, and also if you ever watch wrestling, there's this group called the System. What the System is hold is that nobody's bigger than the system, and I think this is where when you when you when you explain what's going on, it's not a person, it's a system. This system has been going on for a long time. There are elites, yes, absolutely, there are elites, but there is a system. There is a system that actually there's a system that takes care and understands what Epstein is doing. You know, Epstein was get like, and the reason why I say it's a system because it's just more than just politicians and the big fish. There are attorneys, there are judges, there are law enforcement, there are influencers. All of these people are as a part of this umbrella, and this is why a lot of people are running. And if you look back, probably 2 years ago, if we could say a year and a half ago, Kendrick Lamar was right. They said like, "Yo, if you're smart, you just be with your girl." You think you think that there was only Epstein's islands? There's more than one island that these people were doing that, and I didn't notice that until I started thinking probably a few days ago, when I started reading the documents that what goes on in New York is the same thing that goes on in L.A. When I was at, and I didn't, and like I was saying, when I was partying with these models and all these other people and stuff, I thought it was just marketing. And I used to tell y'all that I think it was just, oh yeah, I was marketing myself and stuff like that. No. Give me a second, everybody. These were rituals. These were humiliations. There are rooms inside of rooms that I have never been in, but I do know it exists. I used to have a friend. I used to try to go to this certain place in, is it Manhattan? He told me don't ever go there. He said that's a party. Those are those parties that you don't want to go to. I didn't understand him then that, but now I do understand what type of parties that he was talking about. We can even go back into the Diddy case. Diddy was a small fry. You got to look at his mentors. You got to look at his mentors. You got to look at the upper elites. The honorable has been yelling about this for years. It's all true. Full stop. Yeah, I to a certain extent I do believe it. Is some stuff fabricated? Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's media, but we also have to understand This is how people get down, you know. This is how people actually really do get down. Where look at his mother. Yeah, Diddy's mother. Yeah, she was already turned from the nightlife. But I'm gonna say this. With Diddy, I need you to go back. You got to look at Clive Davis. You got to look at Leon Cohen's. You got to look at those type of people. And to a certain, to just be respectable, those aren't even the big people. There are people over those people. There are investors. There are because I'm gonna say these CEOs, they're small fries. Because you got to understand what who was Epstein connected with. Epstein was connected with prime ministers. He was connected with cartels, drug cartels, human traffickers, Satanists. You once you start to understand when people try to seclude communities, there is something up. There's a reason why somebody's trying to seclude an area. There's a reason why they're doing that. There's a reason why they don't want everybody to have access. There's a reason why only certain people could go there. You know, if you know the name, they aren't in charge. Um, like I said, there is nobody in charge. It's a system. These are systems. They are hierarchies. I personally believe that there are hierarchies. People always say, "Oh yeah, there's a big fish. They're looking for the big fish." No, it's not a big fish. These are systems. You don't think Epstein is about to be replaced? Like, let's personally be honest. Epstein is going to be replaced. Has he done a lot of dirt? Was he an orchestrator? Yes, he was an orchestrator, but he wasn't the big guy. There was a reason why he had all that access. There was a reason why that he put that information out the way he's putting that out, the information out. Why was he writing emails to himself? That's the thing. Why was he writing emails to himself? He knew he wasn't gonna last that long. He knew, and the thing about it, you got to start looking at patterns. And this is where I'm gonna give you an example. That place that I was talking about that my friends told me not to go to, there was an investigation probably like a year ago. They were finding bloody mattresses, and those people were stopping the police of going into that place, and the police was stopping. The police didn't bum rush. The police didn't pull out guns. They were they were talking to them like they were everyday citizens. They were talking to them like everyday citizens. This is, and oh, everybody wants to play. Oh, this is the Democrats and the Democrats. No, they're the same. They're the different wing of the same bird. How the fuck you got Trump there? You got Obama, uh, Bill Clinton. You have Prime Minister. Was it Prince Andrew? You hear people yelling. You see people chasing little girls. You're finding sex toys. You're hearing about people eating each other. And let me tell you something about the cannibalism. That cannibalism has been going on ever since the English came here. The Pilgrims came here. People said it stopped in the 1970s, but they never stopped eating people. Let me ask you a question. When Nat Turner killed all those white slave owners, what you think they did with his body? They skinned that nigga alive and they ate his body. That's why we couldn't find his body. That's why we couldn't find his bones. Why you think why are you finding out now and they're not going to tell you that there are missing bodies in these graves? Where do you think those bodies were going? You think Jeffrey Dahmer was the only one? No, he just realized, like, yo, There's no shame in my game. This is what I do. I know this is 2026 and a lot of people look at it like, "Oh, yo, that's crazy." But you also have to understand that this was a cultural thing. This has always been a cultural thing. In America, we haven't evolved where we say, "Yo, that shit is weird." But when you start going back in the past and you start to see, like you start to see the elites, the rich, they were the worst ones. They were the worst ones. Yes, they were the worst ones. So now when you know they're the worst ones, how do you look at them? That's why I said, like, yo, it wasn't just Harvey Weinstein. It wasn't just Jeffrey Epstein. You got to look at these people. You got to investigate these people. The Leon Cohens, the Clive Davis, you know, the Barack Obamas, even that guy. Let me tell you something. The dude who got into the office as the mayor and say he was the first, was it black, was it, he said he's Ugandan and the motherfucker's Indian. You gotta investigate him too. It's crazy how he just come out of the woodwork. And I'm gonna say this. Don't think it's just an island. It's places too. Don't forget the thing I'm gonna ask. Dorsey told me one day, and we were talking on the show. He said that they were finding bodies in the woods in a certain place in the woods, and they used to say mountain lions attacked them. But these were sacrificial people. This is where you had to go back into these satanic rituals with the Canaanites. The Canaanites used to sacrifice kids. This lady was it the interview that we were seeing, the lady was saying that they were sacrificing, eating kids' intestines, dismembering kids and stuff like that. Yo, you gotta be a sick motherfucker to do some shit like that. You have to be a sick motherfucker to do some shit like that. Like, it comes a time in a place where you just have to stop and think like, yo, who are these niggas? This nigga didn't have a proper education. The nigga was a border. We could actually just say this nigga was a DEI professor of a college. He didn't have no real degree. He's a dropout, and he had a professor. He had a college job. Like, yo, that shit is crazy. And this is why I always tell people educations don't mean shit. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You got to understand, Epstein already knew powerful people. The shit that we're catching him now, this nigga was probably doing for like 40 years easily. That's why it was probably easy to take his own life because he has been doing this for so long and he knew it was going to catch up to him. Like, we're only remember, like, I'm going to be personally honest, we only knowing probably little parts of what's going on. Little parts of what's going on. There's a bigger system to this. You don't think attorneys are involved. You don't think was it philanthropist is involved. You don't think none of these people are involved. These people are involved heavy. They're playing big positions. You these people are these people right now is laying low. They know what's about to pop off. They know a few people is gonna go down. Like, and I'm gonna be personally honest, some of that stuff that people do talk about, like for example, do I think Jay-Z is involved? I wouldn't put it past anybody. I think Push is kind of a stretch, but I'm not gonna put it past Push. Don't forget, no malice. He disappeared. Hold on, you got to hear that shit. His niece said about the family. Definitely, we'll watch it. We gotta watch it. Email me. Um, I'll put my email. I need y'all to email me if y'all got some stuff like because we're gonna do a little. We're gonna do. I might do a two-part special to this. But yeah, this shit right now, and I'm gonna be personally honest. It's I wouldn't say it's scary, but at the end of the day, it's not surprising. To me, it's not surprising. I have, like I said, I was in the when I say I was in these type of parties, these sex parties and stuff like that. I didn't start noticing until a few days ago that, like, yo, these are parties that not turn people out, but see who can be bought in. Who could be bought in? And sometimes I'm gonna even say this: these people were groomed ever since they were young, and these parents sell them. These parents be selling these kids. Don't put it past these parents. When I say, yo, these elites, they're into a lot of stuff. They're into human trafficking, sex trafficking, drugs, even certain type of wars. Some type of wars, some was it bio wars? Yo, this is a system. This is a system that has been around longer than most people. This is why they're just the elite. Sometimes it go family to family. This is why I said this, and I was looking something up. It was called the 13 families. There are 13 families that will always be rich, that will do crime and never get in trouble. This stuff right here, these satanic rituals and stuff, it's these are sacrifices. These are sacrifices. It's and the thing about it, I was thinking that I quit doing my little modeling thing just because the game was changing. No, I started seeing shit that I didn't it went it went over my morals. Once you start fucking with my morals and my ethics, I'm like, I'm good. It's not worth it. I'd rather get a fucking job. You know, that's why I say New York is a funny money state, but but I'm not talking about like the hood New York. I'm talking about the underworld of New York that most people don't see, that most hood people don't see. That the real players are there. Epstein was a real player there. Epstein was a real player there. Weinstein was a real player there. I'll throw you a few other names. I think Clive, to a certain extent, he had the keys to the door to a certain extent as a gatekeeper. Um, like I'm gonna give you an example. You think that do you think that Young Thug getting out of jail was a coincidence? I mean, do you think that shit was normal that he just beat a RICO case and there's a 95 chance of you losing a RICO case? Then the person that put the RICO cases on him is about to lose their job and maybe even go to jail? This is an ecosystem. These ecosystems are serious. When you tamper with the ecosystem, there will be people in place to get you out the lane. It has always been like that. This isn't nothing new. This is nothing new. People are looking at this like, oh, yo, I don't know how these people got involved. No, pay the cost to be the boss, man. There's a reason a lot of these people can't fit into that system. There's a lot of people that, hold on one second. the, uh, uh, give me a second, everybody. But yeah, there's a reason why that there's a lot of people are talking about this. People are talking about this because this is serious. Now you gotta go. Let me tell you how big this system is. All these people who have missing children and all that other crazy shit, they need to go back and say, like, yo, how did has these kids been missing because these people are taking our kids? Are they taking our kids? Are they, and the thing about it, they were adopting kids, and I'm talking about the elite. They were adopting kids from Dominican Republic and Brazil. The shit that I was reading. Now you got to look at the human traffic. When I say the human trafficking, this is international. This isn't just like a national thing. This is international. You got to look at these people. You got to look at the Jared, the subway guy. How was he getting these kids from fucking Thailand without nobody noticing? You got to look at the fucking guy from the Olympics where he was out here touching kids for like fucking 20 years. What's his name? Larry Nestor or something like that? I'm telling you, these people been in this game for a very long time. This is nothing new to these people. This game, I'm telling you right now, this game that they are playing is nothing new. It's just the people change. Why you think those people in California, they're whacked out of their fucking job? Why you think even these kids shows, the Disney shows, you don't think Disney, Nickelodeon, you don't think those type of people are involved? Then they caught the fat motherfucker touching kids for like fucking 20 years. Now you asking why that girl Amanda Bynes is all fucked up and cooped out their mind? It's hold on one second. That's why I was saying to Dorsey that Telvin Campbell, he was a sacrifice. They were hoeing that nigga out. They were hoeing that nigga out. I felt so bad for him. Dorsey does believe that Tevin Campbell wanted a bit. No, I don't think so. Because he would have been, if he wanted to be in that game, he would have been bigger than he was now. We only remember one or two songs. And this is just how I feel about the whole situation. When Dorsey comes, he can tell you about his opinion, but to me, I think they didn't know. I don't think none of those people knew. You know, and I'm gonna say this, Myron Games, you better watch the fuck out, man. You might be next. I'm gonna even say that nigga might be next. All jokes aside, Myron want to play around with these people. Oh yeah, it's the small hats. No, nigga, we already know that. At the end of the day, what are you doing? Only thing you'd be in is a chatty patty. You being a chatty patty, you ain't doing nothing. Now, at the end of the day, you used to be law enforcement. At the end of the day, I think you a DEI hire too. You a DEI hire. Let me ask you a question. Why did he go quiet on this? Why did he go quiet on this? He didn't really talk about. I'm gonna say this. Myron really didn't talk about the Epstein thing like that, and I'm gonna be personally honest, because he. Hold on. I'm gonna say this. You didn't hear him talk about the Epstein. As many times he goes on the small hats, he knows. He knows. You knew and you didn't say anything. And I'm gonna say this: you as guilty as the elites. Myron knew. He knew what was going on. But what Myron Gaines is doing, he's playing the game. He's another player on that piece. Don't let that nigga fool you. And I'm gonna be personally honest. Myron Gaines was a what? Was it? He worked for the government. How the fuck he didn't know that? I know you wasn't no Billy Do Good. There's a reason what, nigga. I'm gonna say this. You dealt with what was it, child trafficking or something like that? Homeland Security. How the fuck you didn't put two and two together and know that? He knew that. Myron knew that. And then at the end of the day, he didn't say shit, and he still wasn't. He's still not gonna talk about this Epstein thing. He's still not gonna talk about the plays because you know why? He still gets money with them. He still gets money with the elites. He only goes to a certain extent and say, "Yo, I'm good." Don't be surprised. Let me tell you something. Don't be surprised if you see that nigga kissing the wall. And this is why I say, yo, you know what? He can talk about the he can talk about the small hats all he wants, but at the end of the day, they will prevail at the end because you know what? He's gonna be bought. Oh no, SP, this isn't a show like that. You gotta stay focused. If not, I'm gonna have to sit you down, man. We can do that on the Bronze Reaper show, but this show right here, the Reaper Nation, nah, we're not playing with that because you know why? There was kids involved. There were women. There were underage girls involved. So at the end of the day, we're not gonna play that game today. I'm gonna be serious. You know, you could say any and everything, but not the show. Mm-mm. Um, but yeah, it like these, like I said, and I'll even bring up what you said, SP. Some of the stuff you said. These parties aren't just parties. I've been telling people that for years. Remember, I always tell people, yeah, these modeling parties, yeah, yo, they're orgies, they're sex parties. These are sex parties. They be having cake bowls filled with drugs. When I went one time, it was we was it? They had three cake bowls full of weed, the other one coke, and the other one was fucking pills. Different pills. They were all not the same. They were all different pills. They had at least $100,000, probably more 100,000 plus worth of liquor. There were these rooms. If you go into these wrong rooms, you're gonna see some shit. You're gonna see some shit. What's going on, Ohio? Salute, salute. But yeah, the I know I talked about the elites a lot, but I do have some notes that I do want to talk about. I want to talk about the idolizing the demon gods. When you idolize these demon gods, you're selling something. You're selling your soul, but your soul isn't like your soul. It depends what type of demons want from you. You could be like, yo, you know what? I want to be the hottest celebrity, and you probably might not have no status, no nothing. You start to see once you sell your soul, you have to do these humiliation rituals. Some people were eating shit. I heard people. I heard of situations when people were eating shit, feces, and shit like that. You know, sometimes it's a sexual ritual where a whole bunch of like, was it CEOs or chairmans? They just fuck you, and you could be a guy. They don't discriminate. Let me ask you a question. Why haven't we seen Terry Crew in a very long time after that whole situation? Do you think that was the first time that motherfucker did that to somebody? That shit wasn't the first time he did that to somebody. So now it's we haven't seen Terry Crew for a very long time. This motherfucker is doing workout videos now. Don't forget, this nigga had a porn addiction. It almost fucked up his relationship. Now you got to look like, yo, this man probably don't want his kids in the industry. And like also too, I'm gonna say this: don't be surprised with these parents. These parents might sacrifice their kids so they kids can be stars. They'll be molding your kids. They'll have people in the game just molding the kids and stuff like that. You're like, yo, you don't have to handle this. I'll handle this. Don't worry about it. I got you. Then they'll be up. They'll be by your side until you turn 18 to 21. And you'd be like, yo, you know what? Yo, come into these doors right over here, man. Yo, there's women, there's alcohol. I don't know if you do drugs and stuff like that. They got some drugs over there. Oh, yo, you hurt yourself? Hey, yo, take this. Giving the motherfucker fucking steroids so he could come back faster. Hey, yo, let me show you to these people. That means they're grooming you. They've been grooming you. If a motherfucker can tell you what you ate probably in 1992, they've been grooming you. If you can't tell your own story and you got other people telling your story, they've been grooming you for a very long time. They had eyes on you. It has always been like that. Sometimes people sacrifice. So let me tell you something. Some people love their kids so much that they sacrifice themselves so their kids can be on top. When they got the money, they got your soul and body. Yeah, yes. Like, let me ask you a question. All these Nickelodeon kids, how many of them really actually made it? There's not that many of them. Most of them got turned out. Now you look at the Disney kids. These people got turned out when they got older. They were already being groomed. You don't think Orlando Brown was being groomed? Don't forget, this motherfucker was in major pain. He was made to be a star. They were already grooming him. He probably had no childhood. Everything he talked about was probably some adult shit. He didn't have time to be a kid. Michael Jackson, his father was getting him ready for this world. But at the end of the day, that the powers that be said, like, yo, you don't need your father. You don't need your father. We got you. Sony got you. What's his name? Steve Manatoni or some shit like that. The one, I think, if I believe I'm right, I think that guy used to be in a relationship with what's her name? Mariah Carey. If I'm talking about the person that I'm talking about, his name is like Steve Mensa or some shit like that. You don't think he's a piece into this game? You don't think that shit that Michael Jackson was saying was true? Talk about they said was it? I don't hate on Michael Jackson's pop. He made a legacy. Yeah, he said don't hate on Michael Jackson. Pops. He made legacy. Yeah, he made him legacy. But what did the agency tell him to do? Leave his father. Leave Joe. Joe can't get you into these doors. They said that. He's like, yo, Joe can't get you into these doors. You don't think athletes is the same way? Don King. That's another piece. That's another Clive Davis. He'll help you and take it. He'll help you get money and take your money. Like, let me ask you, I'm gonna say this. I know Mike Tyson has seen some shit. And I like I said, exactly same as Jay-Z and Fake Dash. I know you know. Yeah, I know. You don't think they were in the, you don't think Clive and Leo was in his ear talk about, yo, leave Dame. He's bad for business. And Dame Dash was the one actually doing the footwork. He was helping these niggas not get extorted. He was helping these men not get extorted. Jay was like, yo, fuck it, man. I'm trying to be a star. I'm trying to be bigger than a star. I'm not on this type of shit. I'm on a different level as these people. And I'm gonna say this: what is the coincidence that even in all those eras, Jay Z wasn't the greatest at the time? He wasn't the greatest at the time. You had DMX, you had Meth, Red, you had We can even go back to Big. What is it? I don't want to say M, but yeah, M was doing his thing too. Never know who tries to fondle Terry Crews. I'm being personally honest. No, they knew it was the CEO guy, it was the chairman guy. But I'm gonna say this: you never heard from Terry Crew again. People wasn't trying to work with him like that. Remember, I run with camps. Um, Jay-Z's first song he stole from Camp Low. Oh shit! I was around when they all were broke. Oh, see, Jay probably had the mindset. He said, "Yo, I never want to be broke again." That's what Jay was probably thinking. He's like, "Yo, I will never be broke again after this." Then when he started seeing everybody was partying and he felt like he was the only one working harder, he was like, "Yo, fuck this shit." Don't forget, this happened with the Wu Tang. Meth felt like he was doing everything. Meth felt like he was holding the name alive. He was the only one going to the interviews. He was the only one going to the radio station. And you know what? Meth went the fuck off and he said, yo, I can't do this no more. I might as well go into acting. You don't think Meth seen some shit? You don't think Meth. Let me ask you a question. Have you noticed Method Man only do certain type of movies? He does mostly independent movies. The biggest show or movie he did was Power. But Meth been acting for like almost 15, 20 years. Like, why haven't you seen Meth with a blunt, any liquor, nor none of that? You don't see pictures like that with him no more. Why you don't think him and Red don't really talk like that? They all went they all chose their own roads. I think a Weinstein type of executive tried it. When Crew didn't capitalize, he probably blacklisted. Got blacklisted from the industry. Um, Hold on a second. I'll answer your question real fast, SP. Give me a second. Sway from Canlo is my son's main rider. We grew up 2 blocks from one another. Oh, okay, okay. Salute to Sway. Um, I'm gonna answer your question, SP. I think that actually did happen. I think, and this is why I say, some of these people were already groomed. You don't think Jay was groomed? Jay's a smart businessman, but Jay was groomed to be in this position. He was made for this position. He was made for that position. Why you think he was getting in through those doors? Cheese from the Wire. Yeah, Cheese. Let me tell you something. Cheese is a great, great, great actor. His name is God. I'll always forget this man's name. Cheese is one of those actors that he's probably a one in a lifetime actors where, like, even though his voice is very hood, you can put him in you can put him in a movie where he will shine, even if it's a small part. You will remember him. But they didn't want to capitalize with him because you know why? He's a liability. People like Cheese is a liability. Don't forget, Cheese is from Baltimore. So yeah, those type of people from Baltimore, if you don't get them while they're young, it's a wrap. They're gonna be out here doing crazy shit. Look at what's his name, Tank. They got Tank while he was already loose out in the streets. He already told. He's like, "Yo, if I wasn't here, I'll be robbing." You don't say that shit on the internet. Well, I would say some shit like that. But yeah, Mike Tyson. They use on hypnotize on Mike Tyson, directed by his training custom model. What was a foundational element in training his Iron Mike personnel an unmatched ring dominance beginning around age 12 or 13. Could be, man. Could be. And the reason why I say it could be, hold on a second. I'm sorry, everybody. The reason why I say this stuff can be because, and it's possible, is because when we start looking at Mike Tyson, the path that he was going down, they had to get Mike Tyson out the paint. They had to set Mike Tyson down, and this is why when they say, "Oh, yo, he violated that girl," we don't know. Like, yo, let me tell you something about that case. That case was so sketchy that it's like, yo, what the fuck are they doing? They did the same thing to Pac. When Pac started, let me tell you something. Once Pac started saying that, oh, yo, these niggas, when he was doing his blackety black shit, talking about these CEOs and these chairmans and what's his name, Donald Trump. When he start talking about these niggas, they got Pac out the paint. The craziest shit I heard about Pac was when what's his name? Fuck, I forgot that executive's name. He's one of the LMFAO's nephews. If you know who LMFAO is, it was this group back in early 2000. I forgot the people's names, but yeah, it's this shit is serious. Hold on one second, everybody. Like, you start to see that, like, most of these motherfuckers out here, this isn't a coincidence. Emotional freedom technique, often referred to as tapping, is a self-help tool that combines acupuncture, tapping on energy. Oh shit. Behavior as techniques on managing the body. Oh, okay. I'll say this, Adam B. Oh yeah, and shout out for the donations. Thank you for the donations. I'm sorry I didn't shout you out for that. I think that's when the show shut down. But shout out to the donations. I gotta. My crew got blackballed because a known engineer said a eno 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 pseudo to my group member. I punched him 2 times in the next thing. Electra Records had no more shows for us. Exact. Oh shit! See, yeah, yo, they be trying to get people out the paint. They get people out the paint, and the thing about the thing about it, if you don't play the game, this is what happens. You know, it's always been about playing the game. If you don't play the game, um, they're gonna sit you down. They're gonna write you out. You know, I will say that they will write you out. You know, and the thing about it, they will write you out because I need some donation for my child support payment. Yeah. Hey, I need some donations. Okay, we'll put your link up. Put your link up for your child support. You probably get some shit. Um, but yeah, don't be surprised, man. Yo, Bomb Legacy. I must ask you this: you don't know, man. You could have probably dodged the bullet. I will say that you probably would have dodged the bullet. Yo, if you would have got into these rooms and stuff, they'll be throwing millions. And don't forget, I don't know what was that in the '90s, early '90s. I mean, mid '90s, mid '90s, mid late '90s or early 2000s. They probably would have thrown millions at you. When they would have threw those millions at you, they would they'd be like, yo, but you gonna have to do something for me. And sometime with the women, they'd be like, yo, you gotta go under this desk. Let me ask you a question. There was this guy, and I say he's a scumbag, and I think he was a part of early 2000. Yeah, I figured that. Yeah, they were trying to get niggas out that paint, and they were trying to look for the music that was for the clubs. You know, it's just probably you wasn't trying to play the game with them, or it was something, and it wasn't you, it was them. It was them. You know, I would say that it was them, the casting coach. Yeah, they be on that type of shit. And I'm gonna say this: y'all think that shit started in adult entertainment? No, that shit been in the game for a very long time. You start to see that a lot of these people that are celebrities, you don't even know how they're celebrities. Like, let me ask you a question. What is Marilyn Monroe known for? I don't even know what Marilyn Monroe is known for. Was she in movies? Was she a singer? Was she a what? Entertainer? What was she? Just want to let y'all FBA peeps know that Marquette dude is a fraud as well as Cooley side eye them fuck boy. Shout out to you. No, I agree. Like I'm gonna say this. I will say this. That casting couch is a motherfucker, and I'm gonna be personally honest. I do believe in that casting couch. Some of these motherfuckers don't care if you're a man or woman, you know. And that's just how they get down. It's like, yo, you know what? If you can do this for me, I can sit. I know you're gonna be the one, you know. Or sometimes it's the parents. The parents sleep their kids up way up to the top, you know. And I'm gonna say this. Even in these movies and stuff, a lot of these people are not even meant for certain parts. Like me and my auntie was talking. We were talking about the Harriet Tubman movie. I told my auntie that movie was fucking trash. And she was like, "Oh no, no, she played a good part." I was like, "No, she didn't." You could tell that she was forcing it. You could tell that she was forcing to be a black American. Then after that, I was right when I started seeing her eat her Twitter remarks talk about, oh, I know how to be ghetto. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because they caught trans porn and well, I'm gonna say this. Joe Rogan caught trans porn in Andrew Tate's phone, and he said, "Hey, love is love." Then after that, that's when they fell out. Yeah, that's when they fell out. Once his secret came out, and I'm gonna say this: a lot of these people in the industry, they mess with trans women. You think? Let me ask you a question. You think Jason Lee is the only one that's exposing a lot of these people? No, Jason Lee. Let me tell you something. Jason Lee is only telling you what he wants to tell you. He's extorting these. I'm gonna say this. He's extorting a lot of these people that are in the closet. So if you have a problem with him, he will let you know. He will tell you about your business. So this ain't nothing. Like I said, this stuff right here, it has been going on forever. People been getting extorted since time of business. You know, they've been doing this. There has been elites. And also the answer to the selling your soul ritual. The quote is everything has a price. Everything has a price. If your price is money, if your price is fame, if it's your price to be an elite, a hierarchy, they can give that shit to you. They can give that shit to you. Now you gotta understand how do they choose the next big one or the next thing? Like I said, there's steps to this stuff how they do stuff. I had this friend. We were both doing the same thing. He wasn't as good looking or charismatic as me, but at the end of the day, he knew how to play the game. Um, this was like probably like 7, 8 years ago. I asked him because he went in a room with them, the CEO and chairman, and you know what they told him? He said everybody that he knows that we knew, like me, Fox, what's my other Hans. He's like, yo, don't be around them. We're gonna put you around people that you need to be around, and that's gonna get you in the game. The networking that we were doing, yeah, we were having fun and stuff, but we were networking with the CEOs and the chairmans and stuff like that. And this is where and this is where I say it gets crazy. Some of these people go into these rooms with people. This is why some of these people test the waters and stuff like that. This is why, like in that era, in this era, I don't get like me. I don't get offended when like personally, I don't get offended when gay people hit on me. And the reason why, I just think you just think you're the sexiest person in the world. That's you tooting your own horn. Like, damn, you got this little weird creature looking at me saying I'm hot. You be on that type of status. But I will say this: that game is still dangerous. The things they might want you to do, like I said, it goes over your morals where you say, nah, I can't do no shit like that. That shit is nuts. Give me a second, everybody. I forgot to put subscribers only. Um like you forget shit like that, like when you see these people. And he was like, yo, they were fucking, you know. And I'm gonna say this, now he's bi because of the whole situation. He's all fucked up. He's on drugs. Like me, I stopped smoking. I drink when I'm on live with y'all, but this they be getting fucked up. I mean, he gets fucked up. They sent him to rehab like 4 times. Like there was some shit that happened to him. There's some shit I know he's not gonna say to me. Everybody, give me a 2 minute break, and I'll jump right back in. Just give me a 2 minute break because we're gonna jump into some good stuff after. All right, everybody, I'm back. I just went to go get some coffee. Shut the door. But yeah, like I was saying, there's more to this story that I don't think people are seeing. From like I said, the elites are in this building. You got to understand, where did these drugs come from? Where the pharmaceutical drugs came from? There are people who are in the pharmaceutical game that were in that island. And I'm gonna also say this: these documents that I have been looking at and been watching, like, this shit is crazy. They catching sex toys. They're talking about prime ministers, freak offs. Like, I'm gonna say this: the shit that Diddy was doing has shit to do. It, it's bigger than Diddy. I'm gonna say this: it's bigger than Diddy. It's bigger than Epstein. You know, it's. I'm gonna tell everybody, stay tuned. Like, I just seen Epstein's body and stuff like that. They were saying that, like, his wrist was broken or something. I don't know if it was shoulder bone or whatnot. They said, like, there was something broken, like, snapped off. Yeah, it's. I'm gonna say this: what Epstein was into, it was some crazy shit. Um, the people he was extorting that were businessmen. There was a guy who got caught with a Ponzi scheme and got 25 years, and he didn't finish because he killed himself. So yeah, it's all connected. Yeah, all this shit's connected. That's why I said the Diddy parties was the small fry parties. You know, people getting slutted out and stuff, doing drugs and stuff like that. That's the low class shit. The higher echelon was the Epsteins, not even the Epsteins. It's the shit that they be doing in California in those satanic buildings where all the CEOs go, where all these Hollywood niggas go. Like, why isn't nobody talking about that shit? That's a satanic fucking church, basically. I've been knew about that, and that's why I always say I would never move to California. I always felt, and they got one in Boston too. Don't get it fucked up. They got a satanic church in Boston. Yes, these liberals one of those satanic churches in Boston. Not Boston, but Massachusetts. So yeah, I'm not gonna be one of those type of people that'll be like, oh yeah, Heavenly Father, all this. No, at the end of the day, I do believe in God, but at the end of the day, I don't have to, like, do all the theatrics like these niggas have been doing lately. Give me a second, everybody. Let me see what Court TV has been talking about. Oh, Austin Thompson. Uh, Give me a second. Yeah, a lot of these places are not talking about Epstein. And it's the biggest thing out here right now. And I'm gonna be personally honest, that shit is lit out here. You know, I will say that it's lit out here with the excuse me, it's lit out here with the Epstein thing. Cause, like, I've been told people all the time, Clinton always been crooked. Hillary has been crooked. Don't forget, those two motherfuckers got Gaddafi killed. Remember what? Don't forget, Gaddafi's people turned on him, and Gaddafi would have made that country one of the most richest countries. He would have made, nigga. He would have made Africa rich. They were making their own currency. They were making their own currency. It would have crumbled the Western. I'm gonna say this. It would have broke. It would have crumbled the Western Hemisphere. This is why I always tell these people, these Africans, I'm like, yo, my nigga, the shit that you've been doing, niggas was trying to do 20, 30 years ago. Niggas been trying to make their own currency for the last 30 years. What the fuck? What the fuck you think they're gonna let you make it? First of all, you ain't got no power. You ain't got no weapons. You got the Russians that technically fucks with these Epstein's peoples and stuff like that. Don't forget, this nigga Epstein was in Ukraine when he was all in these African countries, these Thailand and all these countries. He was trying to human traffic these little kids, these babies. That's what them niggas was doing over there. I don't know if these celebrities or these other people knew. That's what they were doing over there in them other countries. They wasn't trying to help those countries. They were trying to take those children. They were sacrificing them children. Come on. See, man, what the fuck do you know? Hold on one second. Bombs just said something. Try to hide. They try to hide it. That it's yeah, doing fuckness. And here it is. We have all details of Diddy's crimes, down to how many baby oils. Yes, you're right. But you gotta understand too. Diddy has a. Diddy has a. Diddy, what he did, he was messing around with the system. The system told him that, yo, you cannot own, you can't have your own. You can't have ownership of this. This is the higher echelon. He thought he was bigger and better than the higher echelon because he was the one making the money. Not knowing that, like, nigga, we're gonna extort you. This is why he went on that brother love push. Oh, I'm brother love. I love everybody. 50, he's mad at me. Oh, I love 50. That's why he went on that push. Don't forget, the nigga was giving everybody their publishing back. Months later, he got a warrant out for his arrest. That wasn't a. And I told people, I was like, yo, he's going to jail. He's going to jail. Why is he going to jail? Everybody said, why is he going to jail? Niggas going to jail because, first of all, he's trying to get ownership. Niggas don't have ownership. They just give you money. This nigga has ownership. He wanted ownership. He sued these motherfuckers for the ownership. They stopped fucking with him. All of a sudden, he's having these freak offs with the drugs, human trafficking, Rico. I pray to God he make it out of prison. I'm gonna be personally honest. I pray to God he makes it out of prison. Because the way that it looks, that he might end up hanging himself or somebody's gonna touch him. Somebody's gonna touch him in prison. No, did he won that liquor? Yeah, he won that liquor lawsuit and he got locked up months to a year later. He also had explicit tape of peeps, also like trust or extort. Yeah, this is their extortion. They were saying like, yo, he was a freak. They try to humiliate Diddy. This is what people don't understand. We don't give a fuck that he's a freak. You know, y'all are making it seem like Diddy was taking pussy. Diddy don't need to take pussy. Diddy's a billionaire. The fuck he need to take pussy from for? And he's black. He might got a little wee wee, but he's black. These women were falling in love with Diddy. You know? So, and, like, this is why I always tell people we got to be careful with that. That's why I was like, yo, that's why when people were hard on Diddy, I really didn't want to talk about the Diddy case. Um, Personally, because at the end of the day, like I said, I think Diddy, if it was a charge for slutting out women, yeah, he should be in jail and throw away the fucking key. But that's not a crime for slutting out women. He was just passing her around. And the thing about it, I always say the reason why Fifth is mad because I think what's her name, Daphne Joy is his baby mother, the little Asian girl. Yeah, that's Fifth's baby mother. She was in them paperworks. That's why he was trying to sue for full custody because he was saying like she was soliciting herself. You know, like I said, it's a part of the game, man. But Diddy, I don't think Diddy got that far to play that type of extra long game. Diddy was still Diddy was still doing what he was doing in Miami and all this other stuff. And I think that's the only connection that Diddy has for Epstein is that both of them lived in, I think, Palm Springs. I think I think that's the closest. You know, and this is where all that freaky shit be going down is in Florida. I've been told people that. I was telling y'all, and I'm not gonna tell you the guy's name, but there was this guy. He was a rapper. I was in South Beach. Was Peace Feathers. Um, just a warning, American Dream. This isn't one of those shows that we usually dumb out on. This is a show that we're talking about politics, systems, certain people's freedom fighters. So today we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein. So I'm just warning you, we're not on no dumb stuff today, like we were yesterday. So, but yeah, yeah, this show is different. This is my new channel, the Reaper Nation. So I hope you enjoy it. Diddy was a test run to see what the reaction would be with the big problems. Ooh, that could be it too. That can be it too. I do want to do the documents because I do have documents. It's just yeah. It's harsh. It's a lot. Some of the stuff that I had to stop and I'm like, yo, these motherfuckers serious? No. You're good. American Dream, you're good. I was just letting you know because SP came with the dumb shit and I had to stop him. I was like, yo, this isn't funny because there were little kids involved. There were underage women involved. You know, that's why. Other than that, if there wasn't no kids involved or like any type of like innocence, yeah, I'll joke around with y'all niggas all day. It's just this it's a I'm gonna say this doing this research on Jeffrey Epstein, I might have to do a part two. And the reason why I'm gonna say I have to do a part two is um I had to stop. Like sometimes I was at work looking at his documents and I was feeling like, yo, is niggas behind me or something? Is like niggas watching? Like, yo, once not oh yeah, St. Michael's, you too, man. We're not on the dumb shit today. If you wanna add on to this topic, because this shit is serious because little kids were involved, underage girls were involved. They were saying that there were sacrificial rituals with kids and feces and all this other stuff and sex crimes and stuff. So I don't play with this stuff. Nah. So I'm super serious with this St. Michael's. You can add on and everything. But yeah, no, I work overnight. But yeah, man, I was like kind of paranoid for a little bit. Like, yo, is niggas like on some shit? Yeah, no, St. Michael's. I was paranoid, man. Just like, this is what you gotta understand. Like yo, nigga, that day I was packing two. I was packing two firearms that day. All jokes aside, reading them documentaries and seeing how these people be shaking, rattling, moving St. Michael's, yeah. Um, Black King, no joking around on this show. I'm gonna let you know once, and I'm gonna suspend you for 24 hours. I can't. I'm not playing with little kids. Nah, I don't play with little kids' lives. I'm not playing with no sexual deviants with underage girls. No. So don't play with that today. As if he has a job. Uh, yeah, well, I don't sleep. St. Michael's. I sleep when I get my kids and stuff and they're situated, and I'll take a 2 or 3 hour nap. That's it. But yeah, that's how I do it. St. Michael's, and sometimes I'm gonna tell you something. St. Michael's, it's not healthy that I do it because what is it? I got sick. I think I got really really sick Monday or Tuesday where I couldn't even do a show. Where I think it was Tuesday, I couldn't even do a show. I was all fucked up, man. I was like, yo, my body broke down on me, So it's right now. I'm feel better now. I feel a little bit better. Yesterday, I had shortness of breath. I was all fucked up, St. Michael's. I'm not even gonna lie. The shit's not healthy. If you work overnight, then not go to sleep. So like, was it that Tuesday? I slept until like 1:30, where I had to go pick up my son at 2. Then I had 2:30. Then I had to go get my daughter right after. Bro, I got custody of all my kids. You know, um, I have custody of all my kids, St. Michael. What are you talking about? St. Michael's, you know how much I make? You know how much I make a year, St. Michael's? I make over like 50,000 easily. Easily. Over 50,000 easily. You know? That's why I was saying, like, yeah, I make decent money. I don't I make over 50, like 55, 58,000. Yeah, 55, 58,000. Yeah. Make decent. I don't really complain. I don't really like the stuff that I do buy. You know, I get it's 9:21 a.m. this way on the plane. Oh yeah, you in Cali. I forgot. Yeah, you're in Cali. Yeah, shout out to California, man. And also too, yo, shout out where y'all are from too, man. Yeah, I make a little bit. I make a little bit over 50,000 a year. It's decent. I live under my means anyway. So yeah, this guy is so out of touch with reality. I will say, but it's nigga. It comes with the game, man. I sleep when everything is done, man. But I'm gonna sleep tonight because when I go to work, because I gotta work 11 to 9 tonight. I'm doing the sleep, so I have to take a HIPAA test and I'll be a HIPAA quiz. I have to take a HIPAA quiz and sleep. Let's see. This guy is so out of touch. Cali. Shout out to Cali. Shout out to the West Coast, man. But yeah. I still got your joint up. Adam B. But yeah, man. I'll say this. It's you'd be surprised with this Epstein thing, man. Yo, like how much does this guy how much this put it this way, how much influence that Epstein has, and he's just a small cat. Like this motherfucker was touching down on in Africa, the Philippines. I think he was in Cambodia. You don't think this niggas was taking them kids? And I'm just being personally honest. He was taking them kids. He's a predator. He's a straight up predator. And this isn't. I'm gonna say this that personally, that's a cultural thing. Probably even borderline religious. You know, I will say that it could be borderline religious. Over 50,000 work overnight. I don't always work overnight. I work overnight Monday, Tuesday, Thursday nights, and Sunday I do doubles. That's why I never do a show on Sunday. But yeah, that's what I do at St. Michael's, constantly streaming. Yeah, I stream in the morning. Once I get out of work, I'll take like an hour nap if I can, or I'll work out first. If I have time to sleep for like 20, 30 minutes, I'll get some sleep and I'll jump online. That's why sometimes I'm a little bit late. It's a but you got to look at it, St. Michael's. It's not just a small hat thing. A lot of these there's other people that's in this game too. Don't forget, they yelling Jay Z's name. They yelling Robert De Niro's name. Leonardo DiCaprio, Donald Trump, Hillary and Bill Clinton. There's players in this game. What you're trying to say, you're trying to blame the elites. What you're thinking about is the elites. All you gotta do, St. Michael's, and this is something that you should do. Follow the money. Follow the money. Yeah, I try to get an hour of sleep, man. Tomorrow, I mean tonight, I'm doing a sleep, so I get to sleep. Uh, doesn't matter. He's still white. Don't forget, St. Michael's. You want to blame the small hats, but you also have to understand. Because I'm gonna say, yeah, they are a part of it too. Because you got Harvey, you got Jeff. Don't forget, and I'm gonna even say this. You also got the subway guy. The subway guy, he was out here going to the Philippines messing around with 13-year-old boys. And this is why I say you don't know how long Epstein has been doing this for. I started to think Epstein was an agent of the small hat states and was using flesh to blackmail the powerful. No, I'm gonna say this, SP. They have been eating people forever. So hearing them saying that they eat babies and shit is it's disgusting, but it's nothing new. It's nothing new, you know? Don't forget these people that he was aligning himself with, like with the BLM funding, for example. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, St. Michael's, that is sponsored by them. Because don't forget, a lot of Black Americans had gave pushbacks. I'm gonna say this, yeah. Some of them, the Muslim people were there too. Them niggas with the oil money. Because don't forget, some of their culture they can mess with women who has menstrual cycles. Because it's a sign of womanhood. That's what they said. It was an old school Mossad. Yeah, yeah, man. And the thing about it, if you notice, a lot of these people are weird. Yeah, Jared Forgo. Yeah, he's in jail. He gets out in I think 5 years. He did 15 years. Yeah. You think? Let me ask you a question. You think that was a coincidence that he finally just got caught? Larry Nazar. You think that was a coincidence that he was just doing that for like 20, 30 years and people were pushing that shit under the rug? Now we gotta really talk about the situation. These niggas who be wearing dresses. These niggas who be flipping out on these riders, saying like, "Yo, I'm not wearing that shit, nigga. Are you crazy?" Then you never seen these people again on another movie. Only if they make their movie. They found an underground, Yeah, the bloody mattresses. Yes. And they were fighting the police to not go into that building. I know what you're talking about, Gullery. I was just saying that, and I was saying that My friend told me never go to that side of New York. Yes. I think that's the upper east side of New York. I think. I don't know. The right they could be small hats, St. Michael's. But it's those I'm gonna say this, those aren't the only ones playing the game. Don't forget, you gotta look at the royal family. The royal family are all white people. And technically, and I'm gonna be personally honest, they stole that title. The royal family stole that title. The Spaniards and the Spaniards royal family, they stole that title. He says all the time. Do I support them? I don't support these type of crimes. Absolutely not. You know, when they get you out the paint, do I support it? I'm just with the bullshit when it comes to that. St. Michael's. I'm not a fan of anybody. I'm gonna be personally honest with you. I'm not a fan of nobody. I'm just it's just funny when they get you out the paint and y'all and all you do is complain. Now let me ask you a question, St. Michael's. Since you want to mention them, these niggas is stealing your little babies, as you say allegedly. These higher echelon white people are stealing your babies. They eating your babies. They doing sick, nasty, seductive, sexual deviance to your babies. What are y'all niggas gonna do to these higher ups? I don't know. I don't support nobody. I give them a shout out, yeah, when they do something when they do some bullshit to you, yeah, I give them a shout out. But when it comes to kids, no, absolutely not. I do not support that. You know, I'm being personally honest. I do not support that. That shit is disgusting. And I'm gonna say this. Yeah, they made abortion legal to get rid of. But SP, you're not understanding what's happening right now. You're trying to play tit for tat, but these niggas is eating the intestines and feces of your babies. They are kidnapping your babies and eating them, having a good time, and having a sex fest with your children. These elites. What are you gonna do? I would say this. There's not that many abortion clinics in the hood. I'm just being personally honest. I would say that there are a few, but I don't think there's a lot. You know. So and the thing about it, St. Michael's, you don't even live in a black neighborhood, so how would you know? You know. St. Michael's, you're at war with them. They don't want black kids. Did you read the letter that Epstein wrote? He said he don't want niggers. He don't want to have sex with niggers. That's what he said. He was, and I'm gonna say this: he was going to Dominican Republic. He was going to who really controlled it? St. Michael, stop playing tit for tat. This is not that type of show. We're trying to figure this out. We're trying to figure out the pieces. You're just getting sensitive and getting emotional because This is what's going on, and this is what he been doing, sexual deviance to your baby, to your little babies. But now the question I'm asking you is like, what next? These are elites that are in this area. Who do you think it is? You think it's small hats. I think it's a system. There's no color to this. It's a system. Are there higher elites? Are there a bloodline family? Yeah, there are bloodline families, but they're not over. They're not above the system. But that's fine, St. Michael's. Again, all this shows, and I'm gonna be personally honest with you, you can't protect your children. That's all it's showing me, St. Michael's. You cannot protect your children. You let these monsters take your children and do God knows what with your children. While me, I don't let that shit happen. I'm very overprotective of my children. I get busy. I'm willing put it this way. I'm willing to die for my kids if anything ever happens. So now the question that I'm gonna ask you, St. Michael's, what are you gonna do? We're gonna watch. I'm gonna say this. We're about to watch the his interview. We're gonna watch his interview with Steve Banner, another Republican. St. Michael's. What does that got to do with Jeffrey Epstein? St. Michael's, I'm gonna put it this way. I'm gonna put you in timeout. I just need you to think. I need you to relax. I need you to relax. I'm not putting you in timeout because you did anything wrong. I'm putting you in timeout because I need you to relax. You're not building to the you're not building with this conversation. I need you to stay focused. You're making it a black and white thing. It's not a black and white thing. It's a system. I'm telling you, it's a system. I just need St. Michael's. No, you haven't, St. Michael's. You have never said it a system. Just St. Michael's. I'm gonna put you in timeout for 10 minutes. I just need you to relax. I need you to relax. Just I'm putting you in timeout not because you did anything wrong. I need you to relax. I need you to breathe, and I need you to to add with the system, to add with this topic. You didn't do nothing wrong. I'm just telling you, you didn't do nothing wrong. I just need you to relax. You're making it a black and white thing. You're making it a neighborhood thing. You said everything else. Say, Michaels, you said everything else except what Jeffrey Epstein did. It seems like you're covering up for Jeffrey Epstein. I just said this. Myron Gaines, full blown anti Semitic. Full blown anti Semitic. This situation goes on. This is what's happening to little white babies, these broken homes. This nigga don't say anything. He knew he had to know what's going on if he was employed to the Homeland Security. He knew about these babies. He knows what's going on. Especially if you say you were with the FBI. If you're with the FBI, you must know what's going on. You must have heard of something. But this nigga's quiet. He wants to talk about black people. This is why, and I'm gonna say this. This is why a lot of y'all white supremacists are losing. And the reason why you are losing is because you're not adapting. You're not adapting. There's so many ways of getting your point across. You just talk about the same thing. This humiliation. Let me tell you something. What comes out of this rituals and stuff that these people do? We got to talk about the babies. You got to talk about the sexual sacrifices, the cannibalism, the feces. You got to talk about that stuff. But I'm going to say this, why isn't nobody talking about that? This these type of rituals has been going on for I've been here put it this way. I've been hearing about these rituals for the past ever since the 95s. 1995 I've been hearing about this. And my uncle from Alabama, he was like, "Yo, those shit's been going on way longer than that. Them shit's been going on since longer than he's told me those shit's been going on longer than fucking the Ku Klux Klan. They've been doing this shit since Europe. They've been doing that shit since Europe. This is nothing new," he told me. He said they just brought that shit over here. They try to hide that shit under Christianity, but there were other little people that were full blown out with it, and they were women. They were full blown out with it, and this is why they were crucifying them. This is why they were burning them alive, saying that they're witches. This shit, and I must say this: a lot of this shit has never really been about God. It always has been about good and evil. It always been about money. It always been about sacrifices. Who is the elite? Who gets the control? Who gets the power? You know, some people don't get off on money, they get off on power, control. Epstein got off on power and control. He didn't give a fuck about money. He loved the power and control. Now I want to get into these rituals and this humiliations. Most of that shit happens in Hollywood, and I'm gonna be personally. It doesn't. I'm gonna say this. It doesn't really happen in New York. It happens in Hollywood. It happens in California. Um, and I think, and I'm gonna say this. I think it's going down. If it's not already there, to Atlanta, Georgia. You know, it's just hiding through another face. It's just hiding in a black face. This is why I had that talk about Young Thug. You think that was a coincidence that he beat that Rico case? Do you think it was a coincidence that NBA YoungBoy beat the Rico cases? And you know it's a 95 to 85% of chance that you're going to jail for a very long time. That means they have evidence on you. They know what you've been doing. Only person I was good with it was Diddy's. And the reason why, because they couldn't find the money. There was no money moves. There wasn't money going everywhere. Diddy was telling people, "Oh, yo," he was telling Daphne and Cassie, "You pay for it." That's why I was surprised they didn't go to jail, because that's human trafficking. That's sex trafficking. Technically, that's what what's his name was supposed to go to jail for. Hunter Biden. All these people. Let me tell you something. You might think all these people hate each other from Joe Biden to Donald Trump. No, all of these niggas is on the same plan. They already know who's going to be the president of 2028. You think it was a coincidence that nigga? Do you think it was a coincidence that Kamala Harris lost? No, she's a part of the system. She's probably just going through her humiliation ritual because I'm gonna be personally honest. I think she was fucking with it for a very long time in California. You know, and I'm gonna say what this celebrity and this Hollywood culture deals with. It does deal with human trafficking. It does deal with sex trafficking, sex crimes, baby sacrifices, bestiality. Yes, there's a lot of bestiality into a lot of stuff. Don't be surprised if you let me tell you something. Um I would say I never seen it. Thank God. But there are people that do get fucked by horses, dogs. If you ever heard of this adult entertainer, her name was Linda Loveless or something like that. Lisa Loveless. She, she was known for fellatio. I'm gonna say that she was known for fellatio. What Hugh Hefner made her do is fuck a dog, give head to a dog, and that was I'm gonna say this. This was one of the most humiliating things ever. And she was trying to get out the game, and they wouldn't let her get out the game when she's trying to expose what was going on because she was known for giving deep throat. I'm gonna be personally honest. She was the first person to ever hear a girl take some dick. You know, her boyfriend let a whole bunch of dudes violate her. It was crazy. He was trying to there's a lot of things that y'all don't know about the adult industry that I do know, and like I said, they are a part of this elite as well. There are families. There's 12 or 13 families that are a part of this elite group, but they don't control. It's a system. They go by a system. That's what I want to say. It's a system. But we're gonna watch the Jeffrey Epstein interview. Definitely, we'll break it down. Then after that, we'll just get busy with the others. But yeah, this stuff is serious, man. This is why I was explaining to St. Michael's. You're trying to make it a black and white thing, but you got to understand your babies are being attacked right now. What are you gonna do? These higher ups are stealing your kids. And this is I'm not trying to think about I'm not trying to scare anybody, but at the end of the day, this is what's happening, everyone. This is what's going on with people's kids and stuff like that. This is why I always tell people I don't play with my kids. We're gonna have a big problem, and you're gonna be somewhere that you don't want to be, and that's the fucking hospital. You play with my fucking kids, you know, and that's just me.
Let's give some basics or some things I want to do inquire from the others. Walk me through the Santa Fe Institute. What was it about the time of the math? And this was in the late 90s. So they're not going to hear me on this part, right? We're going to do it both ways?
It will not be on the video, but we do have you recorded.
Fine. Remember, when you're answering on these questions, I'm not in the shot, and they're never going to hear my voice. So a little bit you got to repeat in your answer, you got to repeat what my question was.
To me, I think
okay. These questions, Santa Fe, I'm not in the shot. Why, when you're at the top of your game on Wall Street, do you decide to finance, which was at the time, or endow, or become the donor or sponsor? And they're never going to hear my voice. So a little bit you got to repeat in your answer, you got to repeat the most cutting edge group of mathematicians in the world. Action.
So Santa Fe Institute in the late 80s, early 90s, I was interested, I was on the board of Rockefeller. So that starts, Rockefeller University, formed by John D. Rockefeller to sort of give back.
That's a red flag right there. It's a red flag right there. For generations, even yelling The Rock, it's a red flag. You know who we had? Teddy Roosevelt, some other folks. But America knows them for doing good. But there's a dark secret about Rockefeller. And you know what? We might do a show on that one day about Rockefellers.
To the community, east side of Manhattan, except It was
I
old.
was
It
just
was
telling
sort
you
of
about that.
old-fashioned. They were talking about medicine, and medicine by itself was again subject to the ideas of science. They were trying to use science to find cures for disease. And I said, no, we need to do something different. We need to start interdisciplinary work. In most,
How did a schmuck like you get on the board of Rockefeller? What year was that?
I don't remember, late, I think 89 and 91.
So that's one of the most prestigious research places in the world, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how did a guy like you get on the board of a blue blood, internationally known, hard research, Nobel Prize winners all over the place? How do they pick a guy like you, a trader from, or basically some guy from Bear Stearns?
Good question. So I was asked to be on the board of Rockefeller. And I think it was, I was on the board of Rockefeller. There was a money manager who said, Rockefeller needs someone with financial expertise because the university is growing and there's lots of new things. You have to, again, we go back to the original discussion the last time. Up until the mid 80s, or
I'm gonna say this, and I gotta stop that. He was targeted. He was already a part of this game. He already knew that, you know what? We can both benefit from each other. You need money, I need an investment. And this was history. Again, now we got a Upper East Side. Remember, I said the Upper East Side. I said it should have been investigated years ago. I say over 20. I said 20 years ago. That's the minimum that it should have been investigated. But it should have been investigated probably in the '60s. I have been said that. I've been said that a few times. I just what was it? I think we just mentioned the bloody mattresses and stuff, and niggas is fighting the police saying that you cannot come in here. Most people would have been shot. What they would, I'm saying this. Somebody's hiding somewhere in that east side of New York. Now we gotta ask, yo, is he connected to any of that stuff? Put it this way. Any stuff that's going on in the upper east side of New York, you should be investigating it because at the end of the day, he was there. He was there in the 80s, as he's saying. What was you doing there in the 80s? This shouldn't just start in the 2000s. This should start in like the mid 80s, early 80s. What the fuck were you doing, Jeffrey?
sort of mid 70s, the most important thing was your name. If you were Rockefeller, you already were considered to be brilliant. If you were head of General Motors, it was your reputation. It was who you knew, who your family was, what was your character. And then in the mid 70s, basically, if you remember, you probably had a calculator. It was very advanced in those days to have a Texas Instrument calculator, where it could, by putting in the numbers, it would multiply for you to do square roots. And that was the first, and everyone who had a calculator was already advanced on Wall Street.
Back in those days, those shits used to cost $100. I had to use one when I was in elementary, middle school, and them shits cost me $100.
A simple almost like your accountant. The most important parts of business were really now going to calculations. So it's not only mathematics, but it's things that could be calculated. Reputation couldn't be calculated. I could give you, are you a 10 on a reputation scale, an 8? What does it mean to have a measurement of your reputation? We'll get to that later. But places like Rockefeller needed someone to say, look, we're entering a different world where numbers and the numbers of companies, portfolio management was going to be balanced. It was going to be statistical. Jeffrey, could you come on the board? Potentially sit on the finance committee, Nancy Kissinger and a bunch of other people. And David Rockefeller and I got along very well. He was this unbelievable human being.
I'm gonna say this. David Rockefeller, I think he needs to be investigated as well. Um, I will say this: David Rockefeller can be the piece of this puzzle. He was probably the one that David Rockefeller was probably the one that knew the system and that got him introduced to the system.
Respectful to everyone. He introduced his driver as his colleague, not his driver. He would never say, "This is my driver." He said, "It's my colleague." And David started to explain to me world politics. So David would say, "Jeffrey, money is going to be sort of the most important things. People don't understand money. You seem to have this knack for money." I said to David, "Tell me about your life. What was the worst and the best part of your life?" So David said, "When I grew up, everyone knew I was a Rockefeller. They didn't know that my father told me he would not leave me a dime, no money. But every time we went out to eat, me and my 5 friends at school, they would leave me the bill. They would expect me to pick up the check because I was a Rockefeller." And he said, "I was chairman of Chase Bank." And he said, "I remember like it was yesterday, one of the headlines in Time magazine said, 'David, please fire yourself.'" So he thought that there was a world that existed that would be a combination of both politics and business and leadership. What do I mean? He formed something called the Trilateral Commission.
Mm. I think I don't know because I'm gonna say this, everybody. This is the first time I'm ever seeing this. So if I'm just talking, it's because like, yo, I never heard this, but just and the reason why I'm gonna say this, and the reason why I don't be watching these videos fully before I do these live streams is because I want to give y'all my first impression of it. Um, I want to say this. This is gonna be tough. What he just said, the hold on, let me see what he said. What was
What
the
do I mean? And business and leadership. What do I mean? He formed something called the Trilateral Commission.
the trilateral commission? He's basically trying to form everything that's going to. He's trying to form everything together as I see it. As I think about it, he's trying to form everything together. So everything helps out everything. It's a system. So say like, okay, you got leadership, you got politics, and you got people who have money. If you put that all together, it's just power. It's a system. There's nobody bigger than the system. And this is why I kept on saying this is a system. This isn't people. There's just gonna have another person that fills in that spot. There's gonna be somebody who's in that spot right there where it's nigga. There's gonna be another Jeffrey Epstein. Just put it that way. Jeffrey Epstein has been groomed. And I'm not saying that he was a victim. I think Jeffrey Epstein was okay with it, or his family was like, okay, you know what? This is what he's going to be doing. He's going to be the tool of the elites, if that kind of makes sense of what I'm saying.
The Trilateral Commission is some spooky stuff. People said it was something, the Illuminati, there's some mystery about it,
No.
people that ran the world. It was politicians, but David said most countries, the politicians get elected for 4 years or 8 years, separate from the royal families in England or in the Middle East. Someone's there for 4 years and then they're not there anymore. The most important people to have stability and consistency would be businessmen. So he formed this Trilateral Commission of businessmen and politicians from 3 major continents. So it was the North Americans, the Europeans, and the Asians. So he said to me, "Would you like to be on the Trilateral Commission?" Now, I was 30 years old, 32 years old. I said, "Great." And he said, "Well, you have to fill out this application, so they have your bio. And I looked at the list of people, and it was Bill Clinton, former president of the United States, Paul Volcker, every great leader in America, the Asians, the Japanese, and with a very long description of their history. And they asked me to fill in what I would like to have written. And I wrote Jeffrey Epstein, comma, just a good.
What's going on, Dorsey? Salute, salute. I was just explaining to the audience that this is a system. This isn't like, yeah, they are hierarchies, but these hierarchies can be replaced. There are 12 bloodline families, but those can be replaced. You know, there's nobody bigger than the system. He's explaining the trilateral, I forgot what he called it. So what it is politicians, people who have money, and people who have leadership all come together. I'll say this, Dorsey. I think it's bigger than the Illuminati. I think it's bigger than the Illuminati because, like I said, it's a system. Illuminati is a hierarchy. Um, and this is just how I'm looking at it. Illuminati is a hierarchy. This shit that's going on in the Epstein, that's the system. I was thinking, I'm gonna say this. Out of your defense, I thought it was the Illuminati too, because of the devil worshiping. But no, they're dealing. I'm gonna say this: they're dealing with sex trafficking, human trafficking. They're dealing with drugs. So you're dealing with the cartel. You're dealing with leadership. You're dealing with influence. You're dealing with powerful people. Powerful people. The unholy trinity: government, corporation, and banking. Yes. Um. Yes. I do agree with that. I want to also say this. Um. As I told St. Michael's, this is bigger than just black and white. This is bigger than just small hats. This is hierarchies. Are there small hats in there? Yes. But there's whites, there's blacks, there's Asians. Yeah. There's these people in these spots that is doing the devil's work, as I say. But everything has a price. What do they do? What are they willing to give up to have this, to be in the system?
Kid, which I thought was funny, nobody else did. So in answer to your question, at that time I recognized around the world that monies and currencies were not really well understood. But again, it was only numbers. So numbers, and I'll get to the fact that it was bad thinking. Numbers are very good.
Are most people that you meet, even on Trilateral Commission, when you meet most people, do you find most leaders financially illiterate, economically illiterate?
Most political leaders don't come out of a background of finance. Most political leaders come out of a background of being popular. So in some of the countries, except in the African countries, for example, they might have been a military person. They were a general. In some of the African countries, they might have been a disc jockey. Or in our country, they would have been an actor. The knowledge of money they don't have expertise, they have no degrees in finance. They really, and this is one of the major problems, their expertise, if they have any financial knowledge, is of their own checking account or bank account and filling in their own taxes. So many world leaders who don't really have a financial underpinning make fundamental errors when it comes to money on a country or institutional level. Let me give you an example. If you, Mr. Bannon, If I said your assets increased last year, you'd say, that sounds pretty good. And I'd say, what does that mean to you? You'd say, well, I have more money. I guess I'm wealthier. I'd say, yes. And if your debt increased, would you feel wealthier or poorer? You'd say, well, I don't want to have increased debt. I don't like the idea of that sound, increased debt. Now, that and world leaders understand when their assets go up, they feel better. However, institutions like banks, things that people don't really understand, are financial underpinnings of.
What's going on, Convo? Salute, salute. We digging into the. Oh yeah, this is the Reaper Nation. This isn't the Bronze Reaper podcast. This is the Reaper Nation. This is the first episode of the Reaper Nation, and the first thing we're jumping into is the Jeffrey Epstein and the Satanic Circle. And I'm gonna say this. What he's saying, it's true. Most people are financially illiterate. And wait, and I'm gonna say this. I do agree with him with this part, and it's very, very scary. Just listening to him, it's. I'll say this. I think this is when all the Ponzi schemes came, the extortion, because at the end of the day, these people didn't know about money. All they knew is that they wanted money. They didn't come from money backgrounds. They came from military backgrounds. So that's why I'm saying to Dorsey that I think it's bigger than the Illuminati. Um I think I think I think this triangular union that he's having is what the Illuminati was supposed to be. This what he was doing. What David Rockefeller was doing was creating a real new world order. This was a real new world order. If put it this way, if I try to get out the paint with these people, I wouldn't be able to get out the paint because I would have to deal with investments. I would have to deal with people who are leaders, and I'm gonna have to deal with what he said. He said and politicians. I will have to beat this. I will be fighting a three-headed dragon. So yeah, this is serious of what he's talking about. It's scary. It's a very scary thing when you know a person like this has this type of power. Because at the end of the day, you're fighting three different battles. You don't know, and this is why I always tell people all the time, I sleep, but I don't sleep like that. And the reason why I don't sleep because I'm always busy. I'm always fighting. St. Michael's don't understand. Was it St. Michael's? Because I had to sit St. Michael's down for 10 minutes because he was talking about everything except the issue. But this was going to become a problem. I will tell you this. This started in the 80s and it's 2026. There are new players now. There are new leaders, there are new politicians, and this is why I said in the beginning, there were law enforcement, there were politicians, there were a lot of people, prime ministers being extorted. These people weren't doing this because they wanted to. They were already financially illiterate. He was teaching them little by little, but he's the grand master of finance. Basically, that's what he's saying. This is why David Rockefeller wanted him in that group. This is why they hired him. This is why they was like, yo, we need you in this investment because you're the only one that right now is experienced with money.
Banks. When I say your bank Mr. Bannon, you have the Bannon Bank. You doubled your assets. Sounds good, but what does it really mean? It means people owe you more money. You don't have any money, more money. What? Yeah. A bank's assets are how much it is owed by other people. That's crazy. So if the bank goes from $2 billion of assets to $10 billion, it means people owe it an additional $8 billion, but their assets have gone up. So the terminology of assets and liabilities is different for banks. It's not natural. And what most people, and you ask questions about world leaders, there's many people, I think your old boss Mercer understood, there's a fundamental part of money which is called fractionalized banking. And fractionalized banking is something that finance people understand, and the people on the street, and when I say people on the street, that's where I was when I started on Wall Street, would find it impossible to believe. Impossible. Why? Bannon Bank, I give you $1, just one single dollar. In our system of banking, I would say, okay, Steve, I gave you $1. How much could you lend out to your friends? And your natural reaction would be probably something less than $1 because I want to keep something in my pocket. The way our system works is if you as a bank are holding my dollar, you can lend out an additional $8 or $9. No, it's impossible. I only have $1, Jeffrey. We have something called fractionalized reserves, which is if you have 1, you can lend out 9. That's the way our system works. And so not only do world leaders not understand banking, but the man on the street, my father who worked in the park department, it would be beyond his imagination that people could lend out more money than they actually had in their pocket. Next question.
But how did this, in understanding that, when you get on something like the Trilateral Commission, you're on the board at Rockefeller, which is the most advanced research. You get brought into the Trilateral, which is the elite of the elite. How, since you're only at that time
30-something years old.
8 years from teaching at Dalton, right? You're a Dalton.
No, 10 years.
10 years
right.
teaching at Dalton.
Yes.
Walk us through. I mean, put us in the room. Walk me through exactly what it felt like. What it felt like being on the board at Rockefeller. You got these Nobel laureates, and you're sitting there making decisions, and you start to meet these people at Rockefeller. And you start to meet these people at the Trilateral Commission. What did it feel like?
It's a great question. So what did it feel
That's
like?
what I'm in the business of asking.
Yeah. What did it feel like meeting some of these people like Kissinger or Rockefeller? And those were two extraordinary people. But in general, I think the question, the people on Wall Street, I tell the story, the first day, one of the first days when I was in Wall Street, someone said to me, would you like to buy ATV? And I was looking in the brochure, and I couldn't figure out what stock had a symbol of ATV. And when I finally said, well, I can't find it, and they said, what's the matter with you? Do you want to buy ATV? Which is, he was selling hot televisions, stolen televisions from the floor of the American Stock Exchange, referred to in common parlance as the televisions fell off the truck. So I knew what that phrase meant from Coney Island. But what I found was most people, be it in business, in normal life, or in the world leaders, don't really understand money. It is something they think about. They have a sense of what it is. They certainly want more of it. But they also make statements like, we want more money, but we don't want more debt, which just shows a misunderstanding of what money at its core really is. So most people don't, they want to make it, they want to save it, but to understand it intimately is not a normal characteristic.
At the first Trilateral or something?
Yeah, you're good.
Just give me approximate. You joined the Trilateral
I
Commission.
think it might be
And we'll be able to show we'll pull down the chart of where your name was, but just give me roughly when it was.
I think it could be 90. I don't remember.
Let's
Sorry.
say early 90s.
Yes.
When you got on the Trilateral Commission and had the first, where was the, do you remember where the first meeting was?
It was in Tokyo.
In Tokyo. And at what hotel?
I would like to say the Hilton, but it's probably not.
And it's a 3-day, 4-day? Give me some
Three-day event, and it
walk
was
me through the whole thing.
Speeches.
It starts with a dinner. Just walk me through it.
It was boring.
You couldn't possibly think it was boring. It's
It
bullshit.
was boring.
You had to
No,
be stars
sorry.
in your eyes.
No.
Did you fly over privately?
Yes, but it wasn't my plane.
So it didn't count?
No.
You fly over.
Yes.
And
it was
who were the first, like when you first met those leaders, you had to be wowed.
No.
You're 10 years out of Coney Island.
No, I'm not wowed by people of position. I'm wowed by people of great ideas. And I don't care if it's the bus driver. I don't care if it's the student I had who has teeth coming out
Well,
every
these guys
direction.
have to have great ideas. They're the leaders of the 3 great continents of the world: North America, Europe, and Japan.
No, many of these world leaders become world leaders because they're popular and they were able to get votes, or they were able to convince people to vote for them. I learned later. Many of them.
Let me ask y'all a question. This is crazy. Do you think he's a mad genius, such as like Because I never thought Albert Einstein was a genius. I always just thought he was just accepted. Like a Nikola Tesla. Like till this day, we still hear like stories about Nikola Tesla. Like, I heard a story that a whole fucking boat disappeared from Nikola Tesla. Like, we'll do a show. We'll do a show on that. We'll do a research show on that on this channel. But it's. Do you think he's a mad genius like this, but a deviant? You know, and that's something that we should think about. Like, yo, what the hell is wrong with this guy? You know, there's something off. Like, he knew to like off himself before. Excuse me. He knew to off himself before anything happened. That's crazy. Didn't put out the information.
Were just good at what they did in terms of politics. Remember, world leaders are politicians in general. They're not scientists, they're not intellectuals, they're not great thinkers, they're great politicians.
At the first Trilateral Commission meeting that you remember in Tokyo, sometime in the early 90s, do you remember what were the big issues of the day that they were talking about, and what did you think about it?
Yeah, in fact, it was funny because they were talking about inflation. And they were worried that what would happen, how do you control inflation? And as a mathematician, I didn't understand the concept. I don't understand the concept today. How's that possible? Well, when you talk about most things to do with money, money is meant to be local. It's US dollars, then I understand what it means. If inflation, it means my dollar today inflates, and it doesn't buy as much as it did a couple of years ago. The prices go up. It seems that everything is great, but in fact, my dollar is shrinking in value.
If you,
I seen that video too.
and you're the financial
I see that
genius here.
gallery.
I'm just a lowly M&A guy.
Sure. If you let me finish the thought.
Go ahead.
So if you're in America, you can feel inflation. Your salary's gone up, but you can't buy the same car. In fact, it starts to feel weird because the value.
That's why I wanted to ask the question then. This is my point.
Sure.
The people who live and breathe this, the central banks, have been haunted by the specter of inflation since the late 70s.
Yes.
First off, tell our audience, how did that happen? The two great financial events in the 20th century, I'm not going to get to the 21st, were the great inflation in Europe after World War I, the Great Depression, the hyperinflation in Germany that led to the rise of Hitler, and then this inflation in the mid-70s. Before you go to explain inflation, why is this specter of inflation always the central thing in central bankers' minds?
Because it goes back to this, the first concept I said, the weird concept of fractionalized reserves. The system is not well understood. And most systems, in fact, are not well understood. We don't know how our digestive
Hold on,
system.
stop. This is
I
impossible.
understand.
This is impossible. The world banking system, the world currency system, the world monetary system
Yes.
has to be so well understood by the Greenspans of the world and the Bernankes of the world and you, right? The currency traders, the guys making billion-dollar bets every day, the legendary guy on Wall Street in the late 90s, Salomon Brothers.
Lou Ranieri?
No, the guy that wrote the money.
Michael Lewis? Marius Poker?
Yeah, Marius Poker. Who's that about? That great trader.
Lou Ranieri.
No, it wasn't Lou, the guy that ran the desk. That eventually ran the hedge fund that went long-term capital.
Yes, I don't remember.
Who's the guy?
I want to say, I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Lou Ranieri is big, but
Yes.
those guys have to understand the system perfectly.
Hey, yo, let me ask y'all a question. Isn't his mannerisms kind of like Donald Trump's? Like what? Watch this part right here. Watch.
The hedge fund that went long-term capital.
Yes, I don't remember.
Who's the guy?
I want to say, I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Lou Ranieri is big, but
Yes.
those guys have to understand the system perfectly.
No, they don't understand the system. They understand the local part of the system. So, for example, why is not only inflation, most bankers are terrified if the public understood that the bank really doesn't have their money at any one time. It's one of the things during the Depression, there were runs on the bank. The reason the banks don't keep much money in the actual bank is they assume that not everyone's going to want their money on the same day. So it's not really the fear of inflation. The fear is a run on the bank. Everybody wants to take out something that doesn't really exist. Inflation is tied to interest rates. It's a more complicated example. But when your money doesn't buy the same amount of product this year than it did last year, if it buys less and less, like it happened, you used the term hyperinflation. There's certain countries that are not managed well, like in Africa at the current, a $100 billion bill in Zimbabwe is worth 1 American cent. That's the perfect example of hyperinflation. It goes up, it doubles every day. So people are afraid that their value and the system starts to break down. But so if I said to you, does your doctor understand your body system? You'd say, well, I hope so, because I want him to keep me healthy. But you could have a kidney infection, you could have a heart attack, you could have a broken knee. There's lots of pieces of this system. And in fact, when you ask the question, very few doctors understand your entire body. There's a specialist for your knee, there's a specialist for your polynoidal cyst, there's a specialist for your head, and now we have specialists in different areas. So and I'm going to get to your first question about Santa Fe Institute. The world economy and your body are both comprised of little systems interacting with each other and making one big system.
This is what's stunning for all the little guys out there, the populist movement, the little guys that haven't had a pay raise in 30 years. They think that these elites, have everything. They're the guys in the room making the decisions, the party of Davos guys. You're sitting there, you don't think many people today really understand the complexity and really all the moving pieces and how they interconnect to the world's financial system.
No, not only don't they understand the complexity, and that goes back to Santa Fe Institute was an attempt of trying to see if there was a way to mathematize, formularize, or algorithmically understand what the term complexity means. That goes back to the original question. Complex systems are complex by definition. But there's not necessarily, it's not one level of complexity. We might say, well, our fingers are complex, the movements, the muscles of our hands, but it's not as complex as the blood system. Now I have a circulatory system. I have systems on top of systems, so that there's no one group or person that really understands the way the body works. There's no one group that understands the way the financial systems work. You might understand U.S. bond market. Now, you've asked about the trader, long-term capital. That was a bond fund, very small part of this very complex system. So the goal of the Santa Fe Institute was to see, is there a way to get in, somehow understand how complex systems interact? Fast forward, Steve, to today, where Google and these other engine companies, the other tech companies, are trying to build artificial intelligence. The strangest thing that they've found, one of the strangest things, is that the systems that they design, this artificial intelligence, which a lot of people have heard about, is they design a bunch of systems. They're called neural nets. Terms simply taken out of brain work, neurons in the brain. Nets because they actually look like a net. They put in some inputs. The computers work, spit out an answer. Sounds normal to you. It's because you're thinking about that calculator you had in 1976 on your desk. When you ask the person who designed the system, how did it come to that answer? How did your neural net, can you show me the calculations? They say, no, we don't know. We don't know how the thing we designed actually came up with that answer. That's pretty strange. They take the same neural net now and they put it in front of a video game. No learning, nothing. They said to the computer, they say, sit in front of your video game and learn how to play. It seems the computer learns better than any human in history, faster than any human in history, beats any human in history, but when you ask the designer how did it do it, no one knows. It just did it. So that's the first little touch of things that we already have gotten to a place where we don't understand it, and we built it.
On Sunday afternoon, September 14th, 2008, where were you?
Sorry?
It was the night they put Lehman Brothers in bankruptcy in London.
I was in jail.
Seriously?
Yes.
So the financial crisis of 2008 happened when you were in jail?
Yes.
Oh, this is going to be so amazing. This is going to be so amazing. I take it you didn't have your Wall Street Journal dropped off to you in the morning, your Financial Times?
No.
How did you hear about how did you hear about, because I want
I forgot about this, but yes.
I'm trying to get, this is going to be amazing. Let's go back and do that again. Sunday afternoon, because I want to find out about people, the geniuses understanding.
I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna say he wasn't involved. I'm gonna say it caught up. And I'm gonna say the Lehman Brothers was a sacrificial lamb when it came to that situation. Cause he was in jail. All he had to say, he was in jail when this stuff happened. But if they would have did past research, they would have knew that Epstein was there probably. Most likely, yeah, he was there.
The complexity of the financial system, because I think the best example we have is the financial crisis, the crash of 2008. Sunday afternoon, September 14th, I think it was, 2008, is when they were working feverishly in Midtown Manhattan at the Lehman Brothers offices and at various law firms around town, and with the Secretary of Treasury and the Federal Reserve, what they're going to do with Lehman. They decided they weren't going to sell it. And so they prepared to put it into bankruptcy at the open of the market in London the next day. How did you hear about what was going to happen to Lehman Brothers, and what did you immediately think when you heard
Sorry about that, everyone. We're back on. Sorry, I had to reset it. Let's go back.
Since Wall Street's crash, I'm worried about my due. And I said, sorry, Wall Street's crashing? What's happened? And he said, there's some crisis and some companies are going bankrupt. I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah, it's all over the papers. We're all terrified. We're going to lose our life savings because we have either a 401k or our pension funds. We don't know anything about money. Mr. Epstein,
That's why I always tell people all the time the 401k, it's gonna be gone when we get older. Like when I get old and dusty and shit, when I'm like 80 years old, I'm not gonna have no 401k. Let alone like no 401k left. It's gonna be a wrap. And um I'm not just being pessimistic about it. It's just the way how money is right now, it's not going to be here. It's going to be gone. We're working right now for our parents. After our parents, it's gone. It's a wrap. My grandparents already got it. My parents, they're getting it now, but later on in 20 years, no. It's a wrap.
you tell us like what's going on? Am I going to be able to afford my children's education? Am I going to be bankrupt? Like this company called Lehman Brothers. And there's another company in the front page today called Bear Stearns. Oh no, I said. Why? Because that's the company I was a partner in. And in fact, that was a company I had a very large investment in. So, as a great story, I didn't have my Wall Street Journal, but in the early mornings, you're allowed to make 2 phone calls, collect. And when you pick up the phone, you can dial a number, and when the person picks up, they say, you're getting a call from the Palm Beach County Jail. Will you accept reverse charges? And the person either says yes, and the call goes through, or the person says no. The person I had called was Jimmy Kane, the president of Bear Stearns. And I said, tell me what's going on. And so that my knowledge of the financial crisis happened with Jimmy, who was at the center of the storm, telling me about what Lehman had gone under, and they were trying to figure out a way, should they bail out Bear Stearns?
Did it strike you at the time of the mess you had made of your life to be in a situation that you're one of the greatest financial minds in the world, looked at by world leaders and asked your thinking by the most prominent and important people in the world, and here you are in solitary confinement. You got to make a collect call to somebody. Did it strike you at the time how all the threads of your life had come together and put you in a position, or you had put yourself in that position?
No.
So it never struck you when you had to make one of your 50% of your collect calls that day, you call the president or the head of the CEO of Bear Stearns. The biggest financial event in your life is taking place, of which one, every important person in the world would be seeking your opinion. Number 2 would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to apply your craft. Number 3, it would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make money if you were smart, and obviously you're smart. You're telling me here, truthfully, that it never hit you at all of how you'd ended up in a place where you had to make a collect phone call from a jail cell that was 6 by 9 with a steel bed and your food being placed into a slot.
The question you want to ask is, who was the other call to?
Okay, who was the other call to?
The other call was to my friend at J.P. Morgan, who was then, I didn't know it at the time, trying to buy Bear Stearns. So at one point, I had 2 phones. It was difficult because they're afraid people are going to hang themselves with the phone cord. So they don't actually come together and they're pretty short. So I was actually going between 2 phones talking to Bear Stearns and J.P. Morgan at the same time. So I found it.
Yo, I noticed, and I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say this. I noticed a lot of finances. They always off themselves. If like something drops or money is lost, they always off themselves. They always jumping on something, or they like hanging themselves like an ornament. And I noticed that a lot. I don't know why, but that I guess that's their thing.
And it never struck you about how to end up in a situation like this?
No, that would be probably means I would be too self-aware.
You can't possibly expect me to believe this.
I know. I don't believe it.
It's no, it
Even
can't- it
with-
can't
as
be-
a-
it
as-
can't- You're telling me that during that day, you never had a moment. You sat there and go, "What the fuck have I done with my life? That I'm in a 6x9 jail cell when I should be on a trading desk, or I should be in my $250 million, greatest townhouse in New York City, taking calls from the King of Saudi Arabia, the President of China, the head of Russia, the President of the United States, to save the world's population from a financial debacle." You honestly expect me to believe that never happened?
You're suggesting I was somewhat depressed, and how could this happen to me?
I'm not saying depressed. I'm saying a moment of awareness of how could I get myself into this situation.
No, I would just say how strange that this happens. Just, it's strange.
So I don't think Steve Banner don't know, but money doesn't have any feelings. So if you fuck your money away, and I have to use it that way, if you fuck your money away or you mess up the bag, this is what happens. You got to say, "Oh, whoa, it's a funny situation." And you get yourself out the situation when you're dealing with finances. Excuse me. But yeah, of course I'm not surprised that he answered the question like this. And I'm gonna be personally honest. The reason why I'm not surprised is because this is who Jeff Epstein is. Right now, we're looking at who's this person. He's a financer. Okay, he's probably one of the greatest financiers of our times at this moment. But him and David, and I'm gonna say this, he's a co-founder of Dave's Rockefeller's idea. He's a co-founder because this is the first person that David Rockefeller picked. I think, and I'm gonna say this, I think David Rockefeller has been watching Epstein for a very, very long time. A very, very long time. It's so interesting. I'm gonna tell you how fascinating this interview is. This interview is so fascinating because he is dealing. We're understanding money. We're understanding money is a root of all evil, but at the end of the day, we understand why he was doing what he was doing.
I'm wearing a jumpsuit and flip flops.
What color was the jumpsuit?
Brown. Brown.
Brown jumpsuit.
Yes.
I notice I don't see you in a lot of brown.
No.
Brown jumpsuit and flip-flops.
Flip flops. Yes.
With no access to books, no access to newspapers,
No access to anything
You had lived on information.
except my almond joy bars. I had extra almond joy bars.
Did you eat almond joy bars and things like that because you're afraid of what the cooks did to your food?
Yes.
Is that because of that you were in for the crimes that you were in for?
No. It was just in fact I
Is
was
it because you're wealthy?
Yes.
How did you know that?
Well, people would constantly come if I was passing by, or I'd have to go for my medical. people would either ask to borrow money or make some other types of comments about.
And
In the beginning,
what were the comments? At the beginning, what were the comments?
it serves you fucking rich guys right that you're here next to me.
There was nothing about your crimes.
No.
So all this rumor you hear all the time about people in prison that commit the type of crimes you commit, you're saying in your personal thing is not true.
No.
It was all because you were rich.
Yes.
And it was all because they wanted to borrow money.
Or get advice.
Hold
All
on.
because things that commit the type of crimes you commit. You hear things.
It serves you fucking rich guys right that you're here next to me.
There was nothing about your crimes.
No.
So all this rumor you hear all the time about people in prison that commit the type of crimes you commit, you're saying in your personal thing is not true.
No.
It was all because you were rich.
Yes.
And it was all because they wanted to borrow money.
Or get advice. Yes.
Where they get advice to
Which
go long.
Yes,
Are you telling me?
Is this time to buy?
You're telling me inside.
So I'm gonna say this: two things can be right at the same time. Where it could have been that, like, he was targeted because he was rich, but he's in jail because he's a pervert or a scammer. So, like I said, two things could be right at the same time, and this is one of those type of situations where this is where he's probably right at the same time.
Solitary confinement. They're interested in going long.
Yeah. They want to know what
does that say
stocks.
about human nature?
Well, what I think the people find, one of the reasons they wanted to keep me in solitary confinement was they're afraid that everybody would want to know which stocks to buy. But what happened was, after this crisis, now it's on the front page of every newspaper.
I don't want to lose this day.
Sorry.
When you first heard that, was it Bear Stearns had been kicked into bankruptcy, 6 months before?
No, this is the same time. This is part of the same deal.
I thought, no. Bear Stearns, they saved Bear Stearns and didn't save Lehman Brothers. That's
right.
it. 6 months before they had bailed out Bear Stearns. But Bear Stearns was still a zombie.
A shell of its former self.
A former self. But they had, quote unquote, saved it. Why did they make the decision in your mind? Why did Hank Paulson and Bernanke, what's this concept of moral hazard? Explain to the audience what moral hazard is, and why did they save Bear Stearns 6 months before, and why did the smartest guys in the room decide not to save Lehman Brothers?
It's a good question. The real issue is I'd have to go back when you have these systems to the way your doctor responds to any type of emergency in your body. If they might decide to save your kidneys and let your gallbladder go because the gallbladder is less important to your overall system. If at that time, even it's not that long ago, the boogeyman was when said, well, what really happened? Jeffrey, what really happened? What is this financial crisis? And, some of the progressives and the right wing blame it on the banks. It was the banks' fault. And it's the fault of this very esoteric, unknown concept of derivatives. It was really the derivatives that caused this financial crisis because the derivatives got somehow out of control and in the Mickey Mouse. So many times when they have to make your death certificate, it's not a fun.
When you J.P. Morgan, that was Monday morning. Did you, Jeffrey?
It's a very good question. But now he has the big brother, his Uncle Sam. He went to his Uncle Sam, and Uncle Sam says, I'm guaranteeing it. The bank says, I want everybody. Give me as many people as you can give me. Because Uncle Sam is the best credit in the world. Not only it's the United States government. We'll take it all. We'll take as much subprime as we can handle. Because it's the best investment for the moment. It's a strange investment because it has politics that has inserted its way into the numbers. Politics doesn't belong in the markets. But now we're going to have, I want the votes, We'll make guarantees that you who can't get a house normally will be able to get a house from the bank. The bank says, this is the best deal in history. We will package 100, 300, 1,000 of you subprimers, and we'll sell it off to somebody else. And the whole system becomes mired in subprime mortgages. That's becomes the
What do
issue.
you mean mired? There's just too much supply. It's a supply-demand problem. You get too much supply.
No, it's a very good question. What does too much supply mean? Well, then you get to people, go back to your first question to me. Government leaders. Government leaders know if they're good, what things will happen, then they all want to make on it. But well, they're going to.
And I would take it.
We always value things at the core. In essence, what happens or isn't this he didn't change shirt.
I saw the black.
Your body. Now, in fact, the little guy is my finger.
That's where they give you two.
Yes, you get two cleaners. To try as a trustee in
Change.
it's a great question. But in fact, what calculus does,
In that system, the systems we study today, the way mathematics is either taught or understood, that women just haven't gotten up to the highest realms of engineering or physics or mathematics because of that. And you're actually implying that there's a either new branch of science, or we've hit an inflection point like in Newton that's going to go in a Newton took mankind in a different direction because he was able to measure. Then you had subatomic, non-Newtonian physics later. Are you saying that you think there's another developing field that's coming up that may take us, I don't know how many decades to get our hands around, but that's what's evolving out of this?
yes. Yeah. In fact, I think that mathematics, it's not the end of science. Every year someone says it's the end of, we can't discover everything. There's lots to discover with relationship to the physical world, but we know a lot already. In respect to the unexplainable world, we almost know nothing. Women, again, sense it. And instead of Larry Summers, I won't digress too much, but Howard Gardner early on said, there's not one form of intelligence. It's not mathematical intelligence. There's emotional intelligence. There's kinesthetic intelligence. There's this argument that I reject that black people are less intelligent than white people. It's not true. We know, for example, that if I was in the forest and I had to run from the lion or figure out a way not to be eaten, and my competition is a local African, I'm the one who's getting eaten because they have the intelligence to deal with their local environment. So it's just different. It's not better, it's not worse, but there's many differences amongst different.
I'm gonna say this. This point right here, I think, is very unique. He say it's not who's. He's saying that black. It's not saying that black people aren't smart. It's just they're not used to the environment. So the example that he uses, like, say that there is a lion is in their area. The lion's gonna attack him first because he knows what to do around his environment. Jeffrey Epstein doesn't know what to do in the environment. That's crazy. And I'm also going to say this: the reason why we're watching this video is to see what who we're dealing with. This guy right here, I got to say he's a borderline sociopath and narcissist, and he's very narcissistic. Um, and these are the type of people you need to be careful of. I'm gonna watch one more video. Give me a second. I'm gonna watch one more video with y'all, and we're gonna call it the day. It's not gonna be too long. Just give me 30 seconds. Mm, right here. No, I don't want this. I don't know if they'll flag me. Um, and I'm gonna talk for a little bit. The people that I'm gonna be personally honest. You guys, I am shaking right now, but I think it's tomorrow. No, no, watching that. Give me a second, because I wanna. Because I'm gonna say this: a lot of these people will be getting investigated, and you got to look at a lot of these people who have went to God, such as Chris Tucker, Pusha T, No Malice. It's just don't forget these people. We can even say Kanye. I think Kanye knew him. So it's this isn't nothing new. This isn't something we should be like, oh well, I feel, but no, this was supposed to happen to him. It's just I'm gonna say this: if definitely, I think everybody should look at the DOJ. You know, because I'm not gonna talk about it, but there's a lot of crazy things that has been happening. Give me a second. Mm, give me a second. Let me see if. All right, this is one right here. It's 15 minutes. Then we're gonna call it the day.
Experience.
The point I'm getting to here is,
And this is for education. So yeah,
given Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in the BCCI network, given Jeffrey's involvement in the 1990s with all the foreign policy activities happening in the Middle East at that time, given Jeffrey Epstein's, involvement through, the early 2000s Clinton era and everything, given his involvement in everything from Israeli to Saudi to British to French high-level government officials, Jeffrey Epstein was investigated by the SEC in the 1980s. He was one of the two people who ran the biggest Ponzi scheme in history at the time in the United States, the Towers financial collapse. Epstein's business partner goes to jail for like 30 years or 20 years or whatever. But Epstein skates completely free. Epstein gets involved in this huge fraud in the U.S. Virgin Islands with this, like $1 billion fraud case in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Never prosecuted for any of it. Why is that? Well, one is, he may have, we know in the U.S. Virgin Islands case, he was sponsoring the campaigns, basically, of the politicians there. The prosecutors answer to the politicians. Could be that. But I would be shocked if there, in 40 years of this Where's Waldo, Forrest Gump, he's always in the room, in 40 years of American foreign policy and intelligence activity, money sourcing for that, for all the crimes that Epstein committed, the concern was the same one they had with Rolando Masfer. Don't bring the case, and if you do, bring it in a highly limited way. And that's exactly what happened in 2006, the first time he was indicted. Everybody was up in arms that it was a sweetheart plea deal. It gave protection to all co-conspirators, known and unknown. And it was swooped in quickly before, there was a trial in full, so that lines of evidence couldn't be opened about the network.
It's just
can I ask you a question, everybody? Have y'all seen the pattern with Diddy and Epstein? They both get caught. They all let out. I mean, like for example, Diddy his house got raided. when his house still got raided, he went to the Trump Tower and still went partying. He got a deal, but where he could get out and do what he needs to do and come back to jail. The nigga got a sweet deal, but he was still doing these sex freak parties. What is this telling you? It's saying that the law enforcement was under the he had the. I'm telling you this. I believe and I think I'm for sure positive that the law enforcement was on his payroll. The lawyers payroll, judge payroll. They all were getting extorted. They were all at those islands. Even I'm gonna say this. Even the Department of the FBI apartment, the Federal Bureau investigation was there. Some of those people were there. And once most of this stuff starts to come out, you're gonna start to see, like, yo, all of these people are in cahoots. You're gonna start to see about the new world order. This is why I was telling Dorsey. I think this is thank you, Convo. I appreciate that. Everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment in the live chat. Don't if you're not a subscriber, you gotta subscribe so you can comment in the live chat. So subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And if you wanna donate, my Streamlab and my Cash App is in the live chat and they're linked. So all you gotta do is click it. Thank y'all, everyone. But back to what I was saying, yeah, it's they. He had to have the law enforcement on the payroll. He had politicians on the payroll. This is some high criminality shit right here. This is high crimes right here. This isn't just no weak ass crimes. No, they're getting busy.
Crazy that statutory rape is what took it all down, right? Because it's underage hand jobs, right? That's what took it all down.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be what took Jeffrey Epstein down.
Kind of crazy.
Even that has a really interesting geopolitical history. There was a similar scandal in the early 2000s with a private military contractor called DynCorp, which again runs through this Adnan Khashoggi kind of Middle Eastern network. DynCorp got in trouble for trafficking, facilitating the traffic. It was a major U.S. military and CIA contractor for logistics and institutional support and military assistance on the ground for the U.S. military all over the world. They got in trouble basically trafficking underage kids to Middle Eastern sheikhs. And I believe in the early 2000s, and I believe the reason that was alleged by Congress that they did that was to juice the deals with them. That basically, these people who were critical. If you're operating on the ground in Kuwait or, pick your Middle Eastern, country, in order to serve your purpose for the U.S. government to be this outside, plausibly deniable, but extensively infrastructured professional support outfit on the ground, you need the support of the local government. You need the support of the local high-level officials. They need to be happy. And there's several currencies for that. There's financial payoffs, and there's other things they might like parties and young women, especially.
This is why I say he was a master of extortion. And this is why I say I think the cartel was involved as well. With the drugs and probably women as well, little girls and stuff. You got to understand, in these other countries, do they keep track of how many people are missing? Babies who are abducted? Like, don't forget, these are third world countries. So when I do talk about stuff like that, this is why I said He was into more stuff than we know. He was into sex trafficking, human trafficking. The shit that Diddy was getting charged for, that nigga did that. That nigga did that. And you know he did it because he was bringing these women from Florida to the Epstein Island. He was bringing his friends to the Epstein Island. That's saying something.
In places where, you know, being with the very young female is not illegal. And so what DynCorp, I believe, got busted doing, and you can look up the DynCorp scandal here, was doing this. And I believe their argument was, well, you wanted us to do this thing on the ground. You wanted us to help the U.S. military and, kind of covert support nodes that were happening here. We had to do it somehow. This is part of what helped us do that. I would not be surprised if the Epstein trafficking apparatus started with similar motivations. Not, that it's not necessarily for blackmail, but because it makes clients or customers or VIP people happy. It makes them owe you something. It makes them want to get involved in the deal you do, even if the deal is not one they would ordinarily do, because they just want to stay close to you because you're their supplier of the thing, of their vice, of the thing that they, want but can't get. If you're a 70-year-old billionaire, you can't walk into a bar and leave aside the underage thing. You can't walk into a bar, and meet an 18-year-old who's, I presume, these things are facilitated at private parties, and it needs to, for a lot of these guys, it has to be discreet. They've got wives, they've got reputations, and there's an aspect of this that plays out at every institution. I worked at a New York law firm, and there's ways that you can make partner. At least this was kind of the vibe that I felt like. Some people make partner because they're really good technically at what they do. They're just amazing. They're just technical whizzes on the minutia of how to structure a merger or acquisition. They're just really great at structuring an offshore banking transaction, or they just know absolutely everything about tax law. There's some people who move up because of nepotism. They're the brother and they're the son-in-law of a major partner. There's some people who make partner because they brought in one client who's just a really big rainmaker. And there's some people who move up because they open doors to partners while they're associates. They introduce them to someone. They host events. They've got, tickets to exclusive things. And the partners just like being around that person because they get access to that person in a currency that they can't get on their own. And that includes hosting, cool, exotic parties, having, attractive women. I've never been convinced that the central role of the Epstein young girl, in my view, sidebar of the Epstein money laundering story is that it was for blackmail. And part of this is because the moment Jeffrey Epstein officially threatens somebody with blackmail, and that person tells his wife, and that wife tells her friends, and that gets out to somebody else that knows Jeffrey Epstein's access goes away overnight. That's the sort of thing that even a rumor of that spreading, and nobody else is going to want to do business with them.
So you think people just assume it's blackmail because that is how you would blackmail someone, especially underage girls?
I think it is very possible that there could have been indirect blackmail, meaning Epstein passes it on to an intelligence service, to...
Yeah, I've been doing that earlier. We did like an hour of that. Let them understand why. Oh yeah, okay, definitely. Um, I want to say this. with this man right here, what he's saying, it's not wrong, but these are kitty gloves. I personally think he's been doing this since the 90s. And that's just being nice. These type of people always had, and I'm gonna be personally honest, these type of people like Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, they always been the smartest guy, but not the coolest guy. So what they're doing right now, and it's not an excuse. It's just that he is reliving his childhood with these 15-year-old, 15, 16-year-old girls. He's a pervert. He's a pervert, you know. So definitely this Epstein stuff, I think it's a little bit deeper than this. Epstein is he's a small fry compared to a lot of these other people. He's probably one of the smartest, but he's a small fry. He probably knows how the system is worked, but most of these people don't know how the system will work. They're just falling in line, you know. That's why I showed the Steve Bannon video. The Steve Bannon shows you that like he knew the system. He knew what these motherfuckers was doing before they were even going to do it. The only person who knew that he knew was David Rockefeller. David Rockefeller was the only one. He's like, yo, he knew David Rockefeller knew that Epstein knew how money works. So once you know how money works, you know how to activate it to its full potential. And that's what Epstein did. He was Epstein was the David Rockefeller was the brains, but Epstein was the engine that made the money flow and made the money come through. Made everybody rich, made everybody had fun, made everybody get extorted. When it was his fault and when niggas got in trouble, he said, well, you wanted it. I didn't tell you to do it. You wanted that. I got nothing against Rogan, but I'm interested in these Mayo talk points. So the reason why I did this video, and I'm gonna explain, is because he was the first one to say what Epstein was actually doing. And motherfuckers was calling him crazy. When Epstein went to jail the first time, this guy was saying, like, yo, Epstein is doing more than what people had him in jail for. You know, and a thing about it, one thing I know he's not gonna say is that he had law enforcement on the payroll. That's why he moved to Palm Springs. He moved to Palm Springs because of that. Because it was secluded, then he could have people on the payroll, as I said. You know, that's why sometimes it's not about being interested in what a person's saying, it's what they are saying. If that kind of makes sense. Like I'm very uninterested. I'm not interested in what this guy is saying, but the thing about hold on one second, everybody. It's not that okay, so it's not that he is uninterested. I mean, it's not that he's not interested in his male talk. It's just that he knew what was going on. When he was the only one saying like, "Yo, what the fuck? Why is he getting out of jail and going to work and coming back to work?" And everybody turned a blind eye to it. You know, So I have to give him credit for that. I'm not a Joe Rogan fan. I think Joe Rogan. I fell off with Joe Rogan. I use Joe Rogan's content very little. I'm not saying I'm not a. I wouldn't even say I'm a fan. Like I respect his hustle, but it's not my thing. After the shit that he said about black people, it was crazy. Then you have a Nigerian again saying, "Oh, so what? Joe Rogan has done a lot for black people," and he starts crying. Joe Rogan starts crying. This is what I don't want to talk about flat blackness, but that's one of those situations where flat blackness works against black Americans. I will say that. But again, this is why I do use his this is why I am actually using this content because I will say this, Joe Rogan actually put out a good interview with this guy. And it's almost done. We got like we'll probably do like 5 more minutes of it.
To a corporate espionage client or something, and they use that for their own purposes. But even then, I mean, imagine, for example, if, you know, like on the Bill Gates thing, like there was Bill Gates gets an email. I have a video of you sleeping with this person, and or somebody much lower level. The moment they send that to the press, if in order to, they figure they have nothing to lose. I mean, there's not been anybody in the 7 years that's transpired who said I was personally blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein. I think because the moment you do that, nobody comes to your parties anymore. Nobody, you lose all the access, you lose all the deal flow, you lose all the goodwill that you've generated because this rumor. People are very risk averse, especially at that level.
Right, but just to have it over
Thanks,
their
Convo.
head and never use it, though.
Right. Well, I think that what you could have is because he does his own nefarious stuff, he could compile.
You want yo? A theory just popped in my head. Do you know why Jeffrey Epstein jumped out the window? When I say jumped out the window, you know why he put out all this information, and he knew this information was gonna come out because he knew he was gonna die. Giselle did her part because Giselle wasn't going to jail forever. She said, "I'm not going to jail for life. I'll do 20 years. I think I do deserve 20 years, but I'm not doing life in prison." You know, hold on. I'll say this. So he said, if they're gonna kill me in prison, this information's coming out. Why do you think he gave that woman, that lady? I think she had a baby by Epstein. She gave that woman who's like a regular woman, um, damn near his whole assets. He gave him the whole will. The islands, the cars, the money, the buildings. She gave him everything. There's a reason why she gave him everything. And it's not because she was the last one there for him. It was because, like, yo, if I'm going to do all this dirt, I'm going to give you all of this. And you know what? They're going to be after you. She has all that access now. The information that the police did not get, she has. So she's gonna put out more of that information. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if she put out that information. The emails, the documentary, the documents, all of that. There has been pictures out here like that. There has people been doing all this other shit. We only seen what they wanted to show us, but we know. We know what's happening. So that's why I said, yo, two things could be right at the same time. What he's saying is right, but I think it's far worse than what he's saying. I think he had the law enforcement on payroll. I think he paid politicians to turn a blind eye to stuff. I think he paid leaders to not say anything.
It so that if they ever go out, if they ever threaten him with something, he's now got something on them. And I've seen some correspondence that, in the files that that looks like that might not be an impossible
Do
scenario.
you think that's how Jeffrey Epstein got in that position in the first place? That they knew he had this kink?
No, not at all. I mean, Adnan Khashoggi had the same thing. Adnan Khashoggi was running around with dozens of young and apparently underage girls. The whole time. I think that Jeffrey Epstein probably learned, how powerful that can be through that network. Seeing that's what powerful people do. That gives them something that gets them a lot of local influence and wins them a lot of favor.
That's a very specific illicit desire to want underage people.
Well,
How do you even find out that
So that I'll say this: what a lot of people do, they leave the country. So this is why I said when I said it was internationally human trafficking, human and sex trafficking going on there. And the reason what and the thing about I'm gonna say this. The reason how he got all this access to the babies, to the drugs, to the women, to the underage women was because of the extortion. I call it extortion. People could call it bribery all they want. It was extortion. Because you know what? These people who were giving Epstein access was enjoying in the fun too, eating the babies, eating the feces with the intestines, doing these humiliation rituals and stuff. Yes, yes. What you think those rituals was for? What you think when people talk about, oh yeah, them niggas was doing satanic, selling their soul? That's what selling your soul is. You doing something you can't go back from. These niggas was eating babies. I believe that. I believe that. We think it stopped at 1970? No. Like I said, Jeffrey Dahmer was the only one that I can say that he accepted eating people. He said, "Yo, it is what it is. That's what I do. That's his thing." These other people, they faked the funk. They faked that funk real fast. They're like, I don't do nothing like that. Eating babies, eating feces. Like, how many times? Let me ask y'all a question. All jokes aside, how many times we heard about Kim Kardashian eating babies? And niggas was like, oh yeah, she's eating placentas. I think it went a little bit further than that. I think it's a cultural Hollywood thing. I think it's a cultural Hollywood thing. One thing everybody got in Hollywood is a Mercedes and a therapist. I know that for a matter of fact. They got a Mercedes or a Benz and a therapist. Maybe even a psychologist. Like, let me ask y'all a question. Remember that song, Let's Go Crazy? By Prince? Dearly beloved, we are gathered here to this thing called life. It was past its time. It was past its time. But it was telling you something. Niggas was laughing about that dancing. Let's go crazy. Now the question is, what were they doing on them boats? What were they doing on them islands? Who were the players on them islands? That's the scary part. The people we love and adore probably were there. This is why I always said to people, even with black males, when black males came up missing and niggas was missing organs and stuff like that, what do you think that was? What do you think that was? Niggas ended up dead. Niggas pushing this war culture, pushing this street culture, and half of these niggas who are in the streets don't know what street culture is. They think it's just shooting people. There was street culture before street culture. And the street culture was about protecting the streets. It was a safe base for protection. But now killing people, knocking people off. I'm gonna say this, and it might surprise people. It's a corporation. Killing another person, especially a black person, is a corporation. It's for organs. It's for organs. Why you think a nigga don't live past 25? Satanic circle. This is why I say I don't call it the elite. I call it the satanic circle. This is why I wanted to listen to this guy. He's there, but he's not there yet. Give me a second. Yeah, he's there, but he's not there. There's something that he's not really saying.
Someone's into that.
Well, I don't think that the majority or anything close to it of the women were technically. I mean, I think it was largely
Young.
very young, barely legal, so to speak. But and I know that there were cases of underage, but I think
Most of it was just
most of it was
girls.
just very, very young, but not like
20-year-old
not
girls,
like 13
18-year-old
type,
girls.
type thing. And then remember, because this is an international enterprise, and many of the clients are like, in countries that don't necessarily have the same norms about that
Right.
that we do.
Yeah.
You can very easily see someone getting involved in that just because girls juice deals. And so I don't think that Epstein, I've not seen evidence, and in my view, you don't need any of that to understand the core part of the Epstein story that is relevant to your life today in terms of your own government and the workings of power and corporate finance and the like. But I do think that girls juice deals, and the fact that he had the coolest parties on a private island with the hottest girls is
Also
something
brought
that
in
makes
a lot of intellectuals, stimulating conversation, scientists, all these very interesting people. So that was part of the thing, right? That was the draw.
Try hosting a cool party as a guy with a bad ratio, so to speak.
Sausage party.
With a sausage party. And when you develop a reputation for having attractive women at the parties you host, you become an important person to know in the network, because basically every male has a desire for attractive women, not saying underage, obviously, but that is like a universal biological desire for men to want to be around attractive women.
And what did they do for gay guys?
I have no idea.
Is that a part?
That's the thing. They were all fucking. This is where I talk about the humiliation rituals. That was a humiliation ritual. that is something that we have to talk about. And at the end of the day, that's what they do. They brought the newbies in. You don't think they were bringing the Filipino boys, the boys from Thailand and shit like that? Nah, that's what they were doing. The little Dominicans and the Brazilian kids, and yeah, there's no shame in that game.
Part of the file or the lore.
I've not seen evidence of it. Or if I have, I can't recall it offhand. But again,
the whole point is he's throwing these very attractive, cool parties to get all these people together.
But that's what juices deals.
Right.
If you take this scenario, Epstein's running a fund. A donor, a colleague, someone that he'd like to do a favor for, or an intelligence service says, hey, we're trying to get a pipeline built in the Middle East. We need a facilitator to help arrange private outside funding for it, so this thing can be constructed, and it doesn't look like it's coming from the U.S. government, or just, but the U.S. government will provide some sort of loan guarantee or something on it, but we can't raise enough money to do this. It needs to come from the outside, but it would really help American national security, and there's probably something in it for you if you can get this done. Epstein then goes out and says then puts out basically, tries to make contact with people in his network who might be interested in that deal. And then goes out to 5 people. 2 of them are, in the space locally. The deal terms look good. They want to do it 100%, no hesitation. And then 2 people say, well, listen, it's a good idea in concept, but I don't know, the risk profile on it looks a little high. This normally would not be something that my team would clear. It's interesting, but it's a little rich for my blood in terms of the risk profile. But Jeffrey Epstein asked them to do it. And Jeffrey Epstein, for the past 3 years of their lives has been the best weekend they've ever had, has made them feel alive again in their mid 50s or 60s, has opened all sorts of other deals for them, and this deal might work out. So I'm afraid that if I say no to Jeffrey Epstein on this deal, I'm not going to get an invite to the next party.
So what I want to say before I close out, we heard from the intellectual part of the story towards the kind of satanic, the Satanist part. I will be doing a part 2 to this. I just wanted to start off light because this is my first show of doing this. And I feel like, you know what? This is something that we do need to talk about. More information is coming out. This shit's getting crazy. It's getting crazy, and I'm gonna say this: if you think this is a lot, you haven't seen anything yet. You haven't heard of anything yet. So once you start hearing the players and stuff like that, I'm gonna say this: Epstein knew he was gonna die. Epstein put out that information for a reason, and I think that I'm gonna say, be personally honest, that girl that he gave the assets in his will to, that's the one who put it out. I believe that like he left that information out for a reason. He left information out where he had names and documents who came on the island, who left that island, who was into stuff. They were talking. They were talking. And this is why I had to tell you, SB. This is why I had to tell you, St. Michael's. Black and also Black King. I'm not playing with this stuff. When we mess around with this channel, this Reaper Nation channel, it's all jokes out the window. Because there were little kids involved. There's people's lives being affected. These are people we have to respect as freedom fighters. Systems that destroys communities and groups of people. So yeah, definitely I appreciate y'all for coming on the show. And I'm gonna say this. This is my first time doing this show. And I had a great time talking to y'all. I do want to give my shout outs. I usually do shout outs on the other show. You know what? No, I'm not gonna do the shout outs on this show. I just want to thank everybody. I was gonna do some shout outs, but I was like, no, let me just push back a little bit. I want to do something different. So again, shout out to everybody who was on the show. The shout out for the cash apps and the whole 9 yards, and people who gave some great points to what's going on in this Epstein things. I think the next time we do something, we will have a guest. I'm gonna see if we're gonna have I'm gonna have the mic. I'm gonna have the open mic in the beginning of 15 minutes on when the show's open. So definitely be prepared. This was a great show. It came out better than I thought it would. And I will see you tomorrow for the Bronze Reaper podcast. You all take care and have a great day.